The text message from my mother felt like a slap across the face. Darling, need urgent wire transfer? House expenses mounting? Call ASAP. I stared at my phone, standing in the shadow of my childhood home. The same home she told me was sold months ago. My name is Michelle, and I'd spent the last 5 years working myself to exhaustion in Singapore's financial district, sending most of my salary home to preserve this house. Now, peering through the bay window, I watched strangers dancing in my living room, crystal glasses catching the light of my grandmother's chandelier. Except they weren't strangers. There, in the center of it all, stood my cousin Gianna, wearing my vintage Dior dress, the one Mom swore was donated to charity. She twirled, champagne sloshing, while my parents beamed from the corner like proud hosts. "What the hell?" I whispered, ducking below the windowsill when Dad glanced my way. My hands trembled as I tried the front door, locked of course, the key I'd kept all these years useless against new locks. I pulled out my phone and called Lana, my best friend since high school. She picked up on the second ring. "You will not believe what I'm looking at right now," I hissed. "Michelle, aren't you in Singapore?" Surprise visit home, except I'm watching Gianna host a party in my house, wearing my clothes, while my parents act like everything's normal. "Holy shit," Lana breathed. "The house they said they had to sell?" "Exactly. And Mom just texted asking for more money." I laughed, but it came out sounding wrong. "I need your help. Can you meet me? Give me 20 minutes. Coffee shop on Main?" Inside, someone cranked up the music. Through the window, I watched Dean, my ex-fiancé, hand Gianna a fresh glass of champagne. Their fingers lingered together longer than necessary. "Make it 10 minutes, I said. "And Lana, don't tell anyone I'm here." The coffee shop was nearly empty when I arrived. I chose a corner booth, keeping my back to the wall, paranoid someone from the party might wander in. Lana burst through the door minutes later, her eyes wide. "Start from the beginning," she demanded, sliding into the booth. "When did you get back?" 3 hours ago. Took a cab straight from the airport." I wrapped my hands around my coffee cup, trying to stop them from shaking. 5 years, Lana. 5 years of 60-hour weeks, sending every spare dollar home because they said the mortgage was underwater. They said they needed help. And instead they're throwing parties? Not they, Gianna. She's living there, in my house. The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. Remember when Mom called 6 months ago, crying about having to sell? Said the bank was foreclosing? Lana nodded, her face darkening. "You were devastated. Well, guess what? There was no bank, no foreclosure." I pulled out my phone, showing her the photos I'd taken through the window. "They gave my house to Gianna. They're all in on it. Mom, Dad, Aunt Natalia. They used my money to keep up their lifestyle while telling me everything was falling apart." "Those bastards," Lana whispered, scrolling through the photos. "What are you going to do?" I smiled, and Lana leaned back slightly. "That's the thing. They don't know what I've been doing these past 6 months. When Mom told me about the foreclosure, I didn't just accept it. I started digging. And I bought the debt. All of it. Through a shell company with help from a lawyer friend. The mortgage, the credit cards, everything. They think some investment firm owns it all, but it's me." My laugh was hollow. "I own everything they owe." Lana's eyes widened. "Holy shit, Michelle." My phone buzzed. Another text from Mom. "Michelle, about that transfer? Need to discuss urgent house matters." I showed it to Lana, who shook her head in disbelief. The nerve of these people. "They have no idea I'm here," I said, putting the phone away. "No idea what's coming. And I'm going to let them dig themselves deeper before I show them exactly what happens when you betray family." "Michelle." Lana reached across the table, squeezing my hand. "What are you planning?" I pulled my hand away gently. "Justice or revenge. Maybe both." I stood up, dropping cash on the table for our coffees. "Want to help me destroy my family?" Lana stared at me for a long moment before nodding slowly. You know I've got your back. Always have. Good, I said, heading for the door, because this is just the beginning. You need to see this, Lana said, sliding her phone across the hotel room desk. She'd been monitoring social media all morning while I made calls. The Instagram post showed Gianna lounging on my antique chaise, wearing another one of my dresses. The caption read, "Living my best life in my forever home." Blessed? I gripped the desk edge until my knuckles turned white. That chaise belonged to my grandmother. There's more. Lana scrolled through photos. She's been posting for months. Look at the dates. They match up exactly with when your mom started asking for extra money. For house repairs, I spat. Repairs like designer furniture and new marble countertops, apparently. My laptop pinged with an email from Mark, my lawyer. Got it, I said, scanning the message. The bank records confirm everything. Every transfer I sent went straight to Gianna's interior decorator. How much? Almost $200,000. I turned the laptop to show her. They used my money to renovate my house for her. Lana cursed under her breath. And Dean? How long has that been going on? I pulled up his social media profile. There he was, arm around Gianna's waist, standing in front of my house. Posted 3 months ago, while I was still sending money home. Dean and I broke up last year because he said long distance was too hard, I said, my voice flat. Looks like he found something closer to home. My phone buzzed. Mom again. I put it on speaker. Michelle, darling, why haven't you called back? Hi, Mom. Been busy with work. I kept my voice carefully neutral. What's the emergency? Oh, just some house expenses. You know how it is with old properties. She laughed nervously. We need about $5,000 for repairs. Lana made a slashing motion across her throat, but I wasn't done. The house that was foreclosed on? The one you had to sell? A pause. Well, yes, but we worked something out with the bank. Everything's fine now. Really? That's wonderful news. I watched Lana's eyes widen at my sweet tone. So who owns it now? Oh, just investment people. Very understanding folks. But we still need to maintain it, you see. Send me the paperwork, I said. For the repairs. I'll wire the money once I see the quotes. That's not... I wouldn't want to burden you with paperwork. Just trust me, sweetheart. Like I trusted you about the foreclosure? Dead silence on the line. Then, what do you mean? Nothing, Mom. I'll think about the money. Got to go. Meeting starting. I hung up before she could respond. Lana let out a low whistle. That was cold. I loved it. Mark's sending over the final documents today, I said, pulling up another email. Once I sign, I can call in all the debts whenever I want. They'll have 30 days to pay in full. Which they can't do. Not even close. I smiled grimly. They're underwater on everything. Credit cards, car loans, personal lines of credit. All bought up by my shell company over the last 6 months. A knock at the door made us both jump. Lana peeked through the peephole and relaxed. It's just room service. The waiter wheeled in our lunch, but I'd lost my appetite. On the TV behind him, muted local news showed footage of a charity gala. There was my family, front and center. Mom, Dad, Aunt Natalia, and Gianna, all dressed to the nines. The caption read, Local Family Host Fundraiser for Children's Hospital. Turn it up, I said sharply. Annual event hosted by the Porter family, the reporter was saying. This year's gala, organized by Gianna Kennedy in their historic family home, raised over $50,000. Historic family home? I grabbed my phone, dialing Mark. Michelle, he answered immediately. I was just about to call. The documents are ready. How soon can you get here? I can catch the next flight. 3 hours. Perfect. Book a room at my hotel. And Mark? Bring everything. It's time. I hung up and turned to Lana, who was still watching the news footage. Did you see what Gianna's wearing? Your mother's sapphire necklace, Lana confirmed. The one she promised would be yours. I opened my laptop, pulling up the folder of evidence I'd collected. Bank statements, transfer records, photos, text messages, 6 months of betrayal documented in clinical detail. You know what the worst part is? I said, watching Gianna smile for the cameras. They're using my house, my money, my things to play philanthropist, building their reputation on everything they stole from me. So what's the plan? I closed the laptop with a snap. We're going to let them dig their hole deeper. Let them throw their parties and spend their money. And then we're going to bury them in it. My phone lit up with another text from Mom. Please call about the transfer. Urgent. I turned the phone face down without responding. Let them sweat. In 30 days, they'd learn exactly what happens when karma comes calling. They're going where? I pressed the phone closer to my ear, certain I'd misheard Lana. Cabo. Your parents and Gianna just booked first-class tickets, leaving tomorrow for a week. I watched the sunset from my hotel window, blood boiling. Using which credit card? The one you own. Lana's voice dripped with satisfaction. Want me to send you the transaction alert? No need. Mark's already flagged it. I turned as the lawyer himself entered the room, carrying a thick folder. Got to go. Keep me posted. Mark spread documents across the desk. Everything's in order. You can trigger the default notices whenever you're ready. Not yet. I picked up my car keys. First, I need to see something. The drive to my old neighborhood felt surreal. I parked a block away, watching my parents' house through binoculars. Dad's Mercedes sat in the driveway beside Gianna's new BMW, both financed through loans I now owned. There they are, I murmured, as the front door opened. Mom emerged carrying shopping bags, Gianna following with more. They loaded the cars with suitcases and designer luggage. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Sweetheart, tried calling. Need to discuss finances. Very important. I bet it is, I muttered, starting my car. I followed them at a safe distance to an upscale restaurant downtown. Through the window, I watched them celebrate their upcoming vacation with champagne. My phone rang. Lana again. You need to see what I found in your mom's study. You broke in? Please. I still have the key from high school. Remember when I used to water the plants? What did you find? A contract, unsigned, but it's a transfer agreement, dated 3 months before they told you about the foreclosure. They planned this whole thing. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Take photos. Send them now. The images loaded while I watched my family through the restaurant window. The contract laid it out in black and white, a scheme to transfer the house to Gianna while keeping me sending money from abroad. Mom's handwriting covered the margins with calculations, my expected transfers, renovation costs, even a timeline for the deception. A familiar voice caught my attention. Dean had arrived at the restaurant, sliding into the booth beside Gianna. He kissed her cheek while my parents beamed. Michelle, Lana was still on the line. There's something else. I found old emails between your mom and Aunt Natalia. They've been planning this for years, ever since you left for Singapore. Keep talking. I snapped photos of the happy family dinner with my phone. Gianna was always jealous of you. The house, your career, Dean, everything. She convinced your parents that you abandoned them by moving abroad, that she deserved the house more because she'd stay local, take care of them, while spending my money. Exactly. But here's the kicker. They're planning to sell the house next year. Split the profits 4 ways. I laughed darkly. Good luck with that. Through the window, I watched Dad raise his glass in a toast. They clinked glasses, celebrating their cleverness, their perfect plan. My phone buzzed with another text from Mom. Darling, please call. Need to discuss something wonderful. The wonderful news being their Cabo trip? I asked Lana. First class all the way. On your dime. I started my car. Send everything you found to Mark. And Lana, thank you. What are best friends for? Want me to keep digging? No need. I watched my family order another bottle of champagne. I've seen enough. Back at the hotel, Mark had organized the evidence into neat piles. We can move whenever you're ready, he said. The default notices are prepared. Not yet. I picked up the contract Lana had found. Let them go to Cabo first. Let them charge everything to those credit cards. Let them think they've won. And then we show them what real debt feels like. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. They want to sell my house? Let's see how that works when they don't own a single brick of it. My phone lit up with a family group chat message from Gianna. Can't wait for our beach vacation. So blessed to have such an amazing family. I took a deep breath, remembering all the nights I'd worked until dawn, believing I was saving our family home. Remembering how they laughed at my dedication, plotted behind my back, spent my sacrifices on their luxuries. Mark, I said quietly, make sure the notices hit the day they return from Cabo. When reality crashes down, I want them tanned, relaxed, and completely unprepared. He nodded, gathering the documents. And you? I'll be right here, watching it all burn. I turned off my phone, silencing their messages. They wanted to play games with my life? Fine. Game on. They've spent how much in Cabo? I stared at the credit card statement scrolling across my laptop screen. $37,000 in 5 days, Mark confirmed. Luxury spa treatments, yacht rentals, designer shopping sprees. They're burning through credit like there's no tomorrow. There isn't, I muttered, forwarding the latest batch of charges to my encrypted folder. Not for them. My phone buzzed. A text from my brother Simon. Hey sis, heard rumors you're back in town. We need to talk. I hadn't seen Simon in 2 years. He distanced himself from the family drama, building his own life 3 states away. Smart man. What do you want to do about him? Lana asked, reading over my shoulder. He deserves to know what's coming. I typed back, coffee, tomorrow morning. Simon's response was immediate. Thank God. Cornerstone Cafe, 8 a.m. The next morning, Simon was already waiting when I arrived. He stood to hug me, then held me at arm's length, studying my face. You look different, he said. 5 years in corporate finance will do that. We sat and he didn't waste time. What's really going on? Mom and Dad are spending money like crazy. Gianna's living in our house, and suddenly you're back. I slid a folder across the table. See for yourself. Simon's face darkened as he read. They used your money to renovate the house for Gianna while telling you it was being foreclosed? Keep reading. His hands shook slightly at the unsigned contract. Mom wrote this. They planned the whole thing. Every detail. I sipped my coffee. They're in Cabo right now, spending more money they don't have. Money you own, Simon said slowly. Through the shell company. I nodded. All their debt. Every penny. Jesus, Michelle. He ran a hand through his hair. When are you pulling the trigger? The day they return? Default notices? Asset freezes? Everything. They'll lose everything. They already lost everything, I corrected. They just don't know it yet. Simon's phone buzzed. A family group chat message. He showed me the screen. Gianna posting poolside photos, tagged living the dream, Shartar blessed Shark family first. You know they're planning a huge welcome home party? Simon said. At the house. This weekend. I smiled. I know. Michelle. He leaned forward. What exactly are you planning? Justice. Or karma? Maybe both. They're still our parents. Are they? I pulled out more photos. Dean and Gianna together. Mom wearing my jewelry. Dad driving the car bought with my money. They're thieves who happen to share our DNA. Simon's phone rang. Dad's name flashing on the screen. He declined the call. I can't be involved in this. I'm not asking you to be. Just stay away from the party this weekend. That bad? That necessary. I stood up, dropping cash for our coffees. I love you, Simon. That's why I'm warning you. Michelle, he caught my arm. Don't do anything you can't undo. Too late, I said softly. They already did. Back at the hotel, Mark had news. The bank just approved their request for a credit limit increase. They're planning something big. Lana burst in, waving her phone. You won't believe this. Gianna just sent save the dates for the party. She's calling it a housewarming celebration. Formal attire, catered dinner, live band. Using which accounts? I asked Mark. He checked his tablet. All of them. They're maxing out every card. My phone lit up with a message from Mom. Darling, having a wonderful time. Quick question. Could you wire another 10,000? Small emergency with the house? Emergency meaning Gianna's party, Lana snorted. I showed Mark the message. How much do they owe now total? Just crossed 800,000. He pulled up a spreadsheet. With the new party expenses and Cabo charges, they'll break $1 million by weekend. Perfect. I opened my laptop, pulling up the default notices. Have the process servers ready. The moment they step off that plane. Michelle, Lana interrupted, Gianna just posted their flight details. They're coming back early, tomorrow night. For party preparations. I smiled. Even better. Mark, move everything up. I want those notices hitting them before they even clear customs. And the party? Lana asked. Oh, the party's still happening. I pulled up the save the date on my phone. But I'm adding one more guest to the list. You're going? Of course. I forwarded the party details to Mark. It's my house, after all. My phone buzzed again. Another family group chat message. This time from Dad. Can't wait to celebrate our wonderful family this weekend. Special announcement planned. Special announcement? Lana raised an eyebrow. I closed my laptop with a snap. They'll get their special announcement all right, just not the one they're planning. Michelle, Mark cautioned, once we do this, I know. I looked at the photos of my family living their borrowed life. Do it anyway. The party was in full swing when I pulled up to my house. Valets parked luxury cars, while guests in formal wear streamed through the front door. String lights twinkled in the gardens I'd planted years ago, now reshaped to Gianna's taste. Ready? Lana squeezed my hand. I smoothed my black designer dress, bought with my own money for once. Mark? Process servers are in position, he confirmed through my earpiece. Waiting for your signal. I handed my keys to the valet and walked up the familiar path. The door opened before I could reach for it. Welcome to... Gianna's greeting died in her throat. She stood frozen in my mother's vintage Chanel, champagne glass trembling in her hand. Lovely party, I said, stepping past her into my foyer. Hope I'm not too late. The room fell silent as heads turned. Mom's champagne glass shattered on the marble floor. Dad's face went ash gray. Dean, across the room, nearly choked on his drink. Michelle, Mom stammered, You're here. Of course. I smiled, accepting a champagne flute from a passing waiter. I heard there was a special announcement planned. Couldn't miss that, could I? Gianna found her voice. You weren't invited. Actually, I took a slow sip. I was. This is my house, after all. Nervous whispers rippled through the crowd. Aunt Natalia appeared at Mom's elbow, whispering urgently in her ear. Perhaps, Dad stepped forward, forced smile in place, we should discuss this privately. Why? I raised my voice slightly, afraid of what the guests might learn. About the fraud, the theft, the lies. Michelle, please, Mom begged. Not here. Here is exactly right. I nodded to Mark, who entered with 2 other men in suits. Since you're all gathered to celebrate, let's make some announcements. Mark handed me a folder. The room was dead silent now, every eye fixed on us. First announcement. I opened the folder. All your credit cards are frozen. Every account, every line of credit. And yes, that includes the charges for this lovely party. Gasps from the catering staff. Gianna swayed slightly. Second announcement, I continued. The mortgage you claimed was foreclosed. The one you used to steal my house? I own it now, along with every other debt you've accumulated. That's impossible, Dad sputtered. The investment firm is me. I smiled as Mark began distributing papers. Consider yourselves served. You have 30 days to repay everything, all $847,000. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Guests began edging toward the door. You can't do this. Gianna stepped forward, face flushed. This is my home now. Is it? I pulled out the unsigned contract. This says otherwise. Mom's handwriting is quite distinctive, isn't it? Especially when plotting to defraud her own daughter. Michelle, Dean tried to intervene, you're being cruel. Cruel? I laughed. Cruel is watching my ex-fiancé move in with my cousin while I worked 60-hour weeks to save this house. Cruel is my family stealing my money, my possessions, my life, and celebrating it. We're your parents, Mom sobbed. Everything we did was theft. I handed the contract to Mark. The police will be very interested in this. Fraud, conspiracy, wire fraud across international borders. Serious charges. You'd send your own family to jail? Aunt Natalia gasped. You stopped being family the moment you planned this. I turned to the remaining guests. Party's over, I'm afraid. Please see yourselves out. As people fled, Gianna lunged forward. You vindictive bitch! You've ruined everything. No! I caught her wrist before she could strike me. You did that yourselves. Every lie, every theft, every betrayal. That was all you. What do you want? Dad asked hoarsely. Everything back. The house, my possessions, every dollar you stole. I released Gianna's wrist. You have 24 hours to vacate the premises. Or what? Or I file criminal charges. Your choice. Mom collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Dad's hands shook as he loosened his tie. Gianna stood frozen, mascara running down her cheeks. 24 hours, I repeated, walking to the door. And Dad, that special announcement you planned? Let me guess. Selling my house? Too late. It was never yours to sell. I paused at the threshold, looking back at my shattered family. You know what the saddest part is? I would have given you anything if you'd just asked. Instead, you chose to steal it. Outside, Lana waited by my car. How did it go? I watched through the window as my family's perfect world crumbled, exactly as planned. And now we wait. I started the engine. 24 hours to clear out. 30 days to repay the debt. Either way, they've lost everything. Just like they made you lose everything? No. I pulled away from the curb, leaving the chaos behind. They lost more. They lost me. The moving trucks arrived at dawn. I watched from my hotel room as my family loaded their lives into cardboard boxes, their designer clothes and stolen luxuries reduced to numbered inventory. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since last night. I scrolled through the messages. Mom, please, we can explain everything. Dad, you're making a terrible mistake. Gianna, I hope you're happy, you heartless monster. Dean, we need to talk. This isn't right. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. Simon stood there looking exhausted. They called me all night, he said, walking in. Mom's threatening suicide. Manipulation, I replied, but my stomach clenched. She does this whenever she doesn't get her way. Gianna's in the hospital. Anxiety attack. Did she have anxiety about stealing my life? Simon sat heavily on the edge of the bed. The police are involved now. Dad tried filing charges against you for harassment. Let me guess, it backfired when they saw the fraud evidence? They're opening an investigation. He rubbed his face. This is a nightmare. My phone rang. Aunt Natalia. I declined the call. You should see social media, Simon continued. Everyone's taking sides. Half the town thinks you're a victim getting justice. The other half thinks you're destroying the family. The family destroyed itself. Maybe, but he was cut off by another knock. Mark entered, carrying fresh documents. They're trying to contest the debt ownership. Their lawyer filed an emergency injunction. Will it work? I asked. Not a chance. We did everything by the book. He spread papers across the desk. But they're getting desperate. Your father tried accessing his frozen account 17 times last night. My phone buzzed with a text from Lana. Gianna just posted something scary on Instagram. You need to see this. I pulled up the post. A blurry photo of pills with the caption, maybe everyone would be better off without me. Goodbye. Jesus, Simon breathed. Is this real? My hands shook as I dialed Lana. Where is she? At her mom's. I'm outside now. Ambulance just arrived. Keep me posted. I hung up, feeling sick. Still think this is justice? Simon asked quietly. Don't. I turned on him. Don't make me the villain here. They did this. All of it. Another knock. This time, Dean stood in the doorway. Get out! I snapped. Michelle, please. He stepped inside anyway. This has gone too far. Gianna's in the hospital. Your mom's having a breakdown. Your dad's talking about bankruptcy. And whose fault is that? I cut him off. You all played your parts perfectly. The loving fiancé who couldn't handle long distance. The cousin who deserved my house more than me. The parents who used their daughter like an ATM. We never meant to get caught? I laughed bitterly. That's the only thing you're sorry about. My phone rang again. Lana. She's okay, Lana said immediately. They pumped her stomach. It was mostly for show, but she did take some pills. I closed my eyes. Hey, keep watching her. Michelle, Dean tried again. What do you want? Money? The house? Take it. Just stop this. I already have everything back, I said coldly. Now I want you all to feel what I felt. The betrayal, the helplessness, the knowledge that people you trusted destroyed your life. Simon stood abruptly. I can't watch this anymore. You've made your point. Have I? I turned to the window. The moving trucks were pulling away from my house, my empty, hollow victory. They haven't even started to understand what they did. And this will teach them, Dean demanded, by destroying everyone? They destroyed themselves, I repeated, but the words felt hollow now. Actions have consequences. My phone lit up with a news alert. Local family faces fraud charges. After daughter's revenge plot exposed, Simon read over my shoulder. It's going viral. Everyone in town is talking. Good, I said, but my voice wavered slightly. Michelle, Dean said softly, is this really what you wanted? I looked at the messages flooding my phone, the news articles spreading online, the empty house across town. My perfect revenge felt suddenly heavy, suffocating. Get out, I whispered. All of you. When they were gone, I called Mark. Make sure Gianna gets proper psychiatric care. Bill it to me, quietly. Having second thoughts? No. I watched another moving truck pull up to my house. Just make sure no one does anything permanent. I want them to live with this, not die from it. And your parents? I thought of Mom's threats, Dad's desperate attempts to access money, their whole world crumbling. Stay the course, I said finally. They made their choices. Now they live with them, just like I had to live with mine. The house keys felt heavy in my hand as I unlocked the front door. Empty rooms echoed with my footsteps, stripped of furniture and memories. Only dust remained where my family's lies had lived. Your parents left this, Mark said, handing me an envelope. Their lawyer insisted I give it to you. I ripped it open. A single page in Mom's handwriting. We never meant to hurt you. Everything we did was because Gianna needed us more. You were always so strong, so independent. She was fragile, lost. We thought you'd understand eventually. The money, the house. It seemed fair at the time. We're sorry it ended this way. Please don't do this to us. We're still your parents. I crumpled the letter, letting it fall to the floor. Any word from the DA's office? They're pressing charges, Mark confirmed. Wire fraud, conspiracy, theft by deception. Your parents are looking at serious time unless they make a deal. My phone buzzed. Simon. Mom's checking into rehab. Dad's staying with friends. Gianna's being released tomorrow. We need to talk. Not now, I texted back. Footsteps behind me. Lana entered carrying a box. Found these in the attic. Your old photos, diaries, stuff they didn't sell or give to Gianna. I opened the box. My childhood smiled up at me. Family vacations, birthday parties, graduations, happy lies. Michelle? A familiar voice from the doorway. Dean? Security breach, Lana muttered, moving to block him. It's okay, I said. Let him through. Dean looked older somehow, worn down. I brought your grandmother's ring back. The one I should have returned last year. He placed the diamond solitaire on the mantelpiece. The same ring he'd promised forever with, now just another piece of evidence. Why her? I asked suddenly. Of all people, why my cousin? I don't know. He wouldn't meet my eyes. It just happened. She was here. You were gone. Your parents encouraged it. Encouraged stealing my life? They said you'd moved on, that you were never coming back. He ran a hand through his hair. I know it's no excuse. No, it's not. I picked up the ring. Did you love her? Or was she just convenient? Michelle, answer the question. I love the idea of her, he admitted. The easy choice, the family-approved option. But no, I never loved her like, he trailed off. Like you claim to love me? I'm sorry. So is everyone, now that they're caught. I pocketed the ring. Get out! After he left, Lana touched my arm. You okay? No. I walked through the empty rooms, memories hitting like physical blows. But I will be. My phone rang. Gianna. What? I hate you, she sobbed. You've ruined everything. My life, my future, my reputation. You mean my life, my house, my fiancé? I never had anything of my own, she screamed. Everything was always yours. The attention, the success, the perfect life. I just wanted some of it for myself. So you stole it. You weren't using it. You were off in Singapore living your dream life while I was stuck here being second best. And now? I asked coldly. How's being first best working out? She hung up. Seconds later, a text from Simon. That was cruel. That was honest, I typed back. Mark cleared his throat. The DA offered your parents a deal. If they plead guilty and make full restitution, they'll recommend probation instead of jail time. No, I turned to face him. They face the full charges or pay back every penny within 30 days. No deals. They can't pay it back. You know that. Then they face the consequences. Michelle, Lana said softly, is this really what you want? Your parents in jail, Gianna in psychiatric care, your whole family destroyed? I looked around the empty house. My hollow victory, my perfect revenge. The cost of justice suddenly felt impossibly high. They made their choices, I whispered, but the words tasted like ash. My phone lit up with another news alert. Family fraud scandal rocks community. Daughter's revenge raises questions of justice versus vengeance. The house is yours again, Mark said. Free and clear. What now? I walked to the window, watching the setting sun paint shadows across my empty kingdom. Everything I'd wanted, everything I'd fought for, felt meaningless in the silence. Now? I picked up the box of memories. Now I live with what I've done, just like they have to live with what they did. Was it worth it? Lana asked. I looked at my grandmother's ring, at the crumpled letter on the floor, at the empty rooms echoing with broken trust. Ask me tomorrow, I said, and the day after that, and every day I wake up alone in this house full of ghosts. The doorbell rang as I finished unpacking the last box. My new furniture filled the empty spaces, erasing traces of Gianna's decorating choices. Through the window, I watched Simon shift nervously on the porch. "It's open," I called. He entered, carrying a familiar photo album. "Found this at Dad's friend's place. Thought you might want it." "Thanks." I didn't open it. "How are they?" "Mom's doing better in rehab. Dad's..." He sighed. "The DA offered another deal." "I know. Mark told me. They'll plead guilty, pay restitution from their retirement accounts, but they need you to agree." I sat on my new couch, mine, bought with my money, in my house. Why should I? Because jail won't fix anything. Simon sat beside me. And because you're better than their mistakes. My phone buzzed. "Lana, Gianna's asking to see you. Says it's important." "No," I typed back. "She's different now," Simon said, reading over my shoulder. "The therapy's helping. She's actually taking responsibility. Good for her. Michelle." He opened the photo album. "Remember this?" The photo showed us as kids, playing in this very room. Mom and Dad on the couch, Gianna and me sharing a bowl of popcorn, all smiling, all lying. "Those people don't exist anymore," I said. "Maybe that's okay." Simon turned the page. "Maybe we all need to become different people." The doorbell rang again. This time, Dean stood outside with a moving truck. "Your grandmother's chaise," he said quickly before I could close the door, "and her china cabinet. Gianna wanted you to have them back. Everything in that truck is already mine." "I know, but she's returning them willingly. It matters." I let the movers in, watching them carefully place each piece, my grandmother's belongings, back where they belonged. "There's more," Dean said. "At your parents' storage unit. They've cataloged everything they took, everything they bought with your money. It's all yours whenever you want it." "That doesn't change anything." "No," he agreed, "but it's a start." My phone rang. Mark. "The DA called," he said. "Your parents signed the plea deal. They forfeit their retirement, their savings, everything. Full restitution plus penalties. And Gianna agreed to repay her share. She's selling the BMW, liquidating everything she bought with your money." I hung up, hands shaking slightly. "You won," Simon said quietly. "Total victory. Now what?" The doorbell rang a third time. Gianna stood there, pale but steady. "5 minutes," she said. "Please." I stepped aside, letting her enter. She walked to the center of the room, taking in the changes. "I'm sorry," she said simply. "Not because I got caught, because I finally understand what I stole from you. Not just things, trust, family, love. Pretty words. I know they're just words." She pulled out an envelope. "This is better. My confession, every detail notarized. Use it however you want." I took the envelope but didn't open it. "I was so jealous," she continued. "You had everything I wanted. Success, independence, respect. Instead of earning it myself, I stole yours. And now I'm starting over, getting therapy, finding a real job, building my own life." She smiled sadly. "You know what's funny? I finally feel like my own person, not just your shadow." The front door opened again, Lana carrying coffee. "Thought you might need reinforcements," she said, handing me a cup. Simon texted. I took a sip, letting the familiar comfort wash over me. Around the room, my belongings settled back into place. The chaise, the cabinet, the photos, the memories. Real ones this time. "I can't forgive you," I said finally. "Not yet." "I know," Gianna replied. "I don't forgive myself either. But maybe someday we can build something new. Something honest." I looked at Simon, at Dean hovering uncertainly by the door, at Lana's supportive smile, at Gianna, no longer pretending to be me. "Someday," I agreed. "Not today, but someday." My phone buzzed one last time. Mom, from rehab. We're learning to live with our choices. Hope you can live with yours more peacefully than we did with ours. Love you always. I placed the phone face down and picked up my grandmother's photo album. The past smiled up at me, broken, beautiful, gone. But maybe Simon was right. Maybe we all needed to become different people. Coffee? I offered Gianna. She blinked in surprise. Really? Don't make me regret it. As sunlight filled the room, I felt something shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but possibility. A chance for all of us to build something true from the ashes of what we'd burned. Not a happy ending, but maybe an honest beginning. That would have to be enough.
A year into my marriage, life seemed steady until a sudden storm disrupted my calm. My husband unexpectedly announced that I would need to take care of my father-in-law, who had suffered a serious accident and was now incapacitated. This was my first experience with such a situation, and I found myself overwhelmed. To my astonishment, my husband and mother-in-law decided to take a vacation in Hawaii, leaving me behind to tend to his father. They had no idea that this decision would lead to unforeseen tragedy. My name is Marigold, and I'm 32 years old. I've always had a passion for cooking, which led me to work for a major restaurant chain after graduating college. For the past 8 years, I've been in the planning department, where I developed new menu items. It was during this time that I met Merrick, the man who would become my husband. 2 years ago, after a long day, I visited my favorite Japanese pub, a place I frequented for some relaxation. That evening, I took a seat at the counter, and Merrick happened to be sitting next to me. Thanks to the friendly pub owner, we struck up a conversation and quickly discovered we were the same age. We clicked instantly, exchanged contact information, and before long, Merrick began inviting me out for dinner. As we spent more time together, I was drawn to his cheerful, easygoing nature, and it wasn't long before we started dating. After a year, we fell in love and tied the knot just 6 months ago. Now, we live in a cozy apartment conveniently located between our workplaces. With both of us working, I sometimes let house chores slide, but Merrick always reassures me with a smile, saying, "You don't have to be perfect at everything. I'm just happy being with you." His sweet and understanding nature makes me feel fortunate to be his wife. Our life together is filled with love and laughter, and even 6 months into our marriage, we still share heartwarming moments. I truly believed our happiness would last for years to come. Then one day, everything changed. I came home from work expecting the usual cheerful greeting from Merrick, but was instead met with an unsettling silence. Merrick sat in the living room, his gaze fixed on his phone, worry etched across his face. My heart sank as I approached him, sensing something was wrong. "Merrick, are you okay?" I asked, anxiety creeping into my voice. He barely looked up, his voice heavy with dread. "It's my mom," she called. "Your dad had an accident." The news hit me like a punch to the gut. I could hardly process what he was saying, but I knew we needed to act quickly. I grabbed Merrick's hand, urging him, "We need to go see him right now." But he shook his head. "We can't go yet." "Why not? Is he not doing well?" I asked, fear creeping into my voice. "He's not, but Mom's with him. She'll stay by his side until he gets better." His quiet response only deepened my anxiety. I released his hand and sank into the couch, feeling utterly helpless. My father-in-law had just turned 67 and despite his age, had always been in great health, spending his weekends hiking and golfing. The thought of him lying in a hospital bed felt surreal. I could see that Merrick was struggling too. Not only was his father seriously injured, but he was also the president of the company Merrick worked for. The weight of it all clearly overwhelmed him. A week later, we finally visited my father-in-law in the hospital. He lay in bed, a weak smile barely visible on his face as we entered the room. "Are you okay?" I asked, trying to mask my concern. He scratched his head and offered me an apologetic look. "Marigold, I'm sorry for worrying you." "Don't be sorry. I'm just relieved that you're safe," I reassured him. He nodded slowly. "I'm all right, just need some time to recover." His faint smile brought me a measure of relief, but the reality was grim. The accident had left him with a spinal cord injury, and though he could speak, he was paralyzed. The doctors informed us it would take at least 2 months of rehabilitation to assess his condition, And even after being released from the hospital, he would require ongoing care. During this time, Merrick stepped into his father's role as president of the company, at least temporarily. Watching my husband take on such a significant position was strange, yet he handled it well. Still, the stress weighed heavily on him. As we sat in the hospital room, my mother-in-law suddenly pulled me aside, tone sharp and condescending. "Marigold," she began, "don't get any ideas just because Merrick's the president now. That doesn't mean you can start enjoying yourself at his expense." Her accusations stung. "I have my own job and I'm doing just fine," I replied firmly. She gave me a smug look. "Sure, but you knew who Merrick was before you married him, didn't you? You're quite the opportunist." Her insinuation was clear, and this wasn't the first time she had made such remarks. She seemed to believe I had married Merrick for his family's wealth and status, but the truth was, I had no idea about his background when we first met. Still, my mother-in-law's hostility had lingered from the beginning, and I had tried to ignore it. But this time, I couldn't hold back. I couldn't hold back any longer. "I didn't marry him for his money," I snapped. Merrick's vibrant personality had always drawn me in, but now I felt a wave of betrayal wash over me. His mother's sharp words hit me hard. "What are you talking about? You speak to me as if you really know who I am." I shot back, but her gaze remained icy. "Exactly, and no matter what you say or do, I will never approve of you," she replied with a smirk. My father-in-law, sensing the rising tension, asked, "Is everything all right?" "It's nothing," she said quickly, glaring at me before turning away. It was painfully clear that my mother-in-law adored Merrick. She probably thought I was just some woman who had married her son for his money, especially since we had tied the knot after dating for only a year. From the very first moment I met her at our wedding, she had been ruthless toward me. I never imagined her sarcasm and hostility would continue, but what troubled me even more was Merrick's apparent worship of her. A few days later, he dropped another bombshell. "Marigold, you know Dad will be released from the hospital in about 2 months, right?" "Yeah, why?" I asked, sensing something was coming. "Well, when that happens, we're moving in with my parents," he said nonchalantly. "What? Where did this come from?" I gasped, taken aback. "Mom suggested it. She said it would be the perfect time for us to move in together. She can't take care of Dad by herself," he explained, as if it were the most logical thing in the world. "But we can't just do this so suddenly," I protested. "What are you talking about? We're all in this together." "Mom's really grateful," he said, brushing off my concerns. I felt utterly confused. It was clear that Merrick and his mother had already made their decision, and my opinion didn't seem to matter. Every time I tried to bring up the subject afterward, Merrick ignored me, and his devotion to his mother only seemed to strengthen. Meanwhile, his attitude toward me grew increasingly critical. "How's the packing going?" he demanded one day. "I won't be able to take time off for the move, so you'll have to handle it all. You're also in charge of the housework and taking care of Dad. Don't let Mom down." His words left me feeling mentally drained, and the looming move only added to my stress. At work, the company was entering its busiest season, and I was struggling to keep up with both my job and the overwhelming task of moving. I was physically and mentally exhausted. 2 months later, we finally moved in, and my father-in-law was discharged from the hospital. There was no time for me to catch my breath. I immediately stepped into the role of caregiver. My day began at 3 a.m. as I prepared breakfast, did laundry, and then went to help my father-in-law with his morning massage and get him dressed. After breakfast, I would feed him before rushing off to work, always feeling pressed for time. Despite my best efforts, my mother-in-law was never satisfied. Every morning, just as I was about to leave for work, she would stop me. "Marigold, can I have a word?" she'd say. "I'm sorry, I'm running late," I would reply, trying to make my escape. "What's your rush? Sit down. I need to talk to you about breakfast." "It wasn't good enough today," she insisted, her voice dripping with disapproval. "I'll fix it when I get back," I said desperately, eager to leave. But she would raise her voice and demand, "No, sit down now." These confrontations set my heart racing and my head pounding. I started experiencing panic attacks and my stress levels skyrocketed. Each day felt like I was walking on eggshells, desperately trying to avoid triggering her complaints. I was barely making it to work on time, and my coworkers began to notice. They could tell something was wrong, but I couldn't bring myself to share the truth. 3 months had passed since my father-in-law's return from the hospital, and I felt overwhelmed by my responsibilities. When I got home from work, I had to dive straight into dinner preparations. No matter how quickly I rushed through it, Merrick always found something wrong with every meal. "What is this, Marigold? I come home exhausted and you expect me to eat fish? Really?" he'd say, glaring at the plate in front of him. "I'm sorry," I would mutter. "I had to leave the kitchen to help your father, so I made something quick. You should be making something that boosts my energy." "I didn't want boiled fish," he'd reply, then grab a cup of instant noodles, pouring hot water into it. My mother-in-law watched silently, a smirk playing on her lips as she savored my defeat. Feeling completely crushed, I went to help my father-in-law prepare for bed. He noticed my pale face and asked gently, "Marigold, are you okay? You don't look well." "I'm fine," I lied, forcing a smile. "I've just been a little stressed with work, that's all." "Is that really it? I've heard a lot of yelling lately from my wife. Is everything all right?" "It's nothing. I'm just not very good at a lot of things," I said, trying to reassure him. I didn't want to burden him with my problems, so I kept smiling. But deep down, my heart was heavy with despair, and the truth was, I wanted to escape. I longed to escape this nightmare, but I couldn't bring myself to abandon my father-in-law. What would happen to him if I left? I couldn't just walk away from everything. The thought haunted me, but there was no clear answer. As the end of the year approached, I finally had some time off work, but even on my days off, there was no respite. On New Year's Eve, Merrick made an outrageous announcement that felt like a twist of the knife. "Mom and I are heading to Hawaii," he said casually while packing his bags. "Hawaii? Now?" I asked, shocked. "Yeah, we've been planning this for a while," he replied as if it were no big deal. "Wait a second, think about your father. How could you possibly leave him like this?" I protested, but my concerns fell on deaf ears. Merrick just smiled smugly. "He's fine with you being here. You're off work, so you might as well do something productive." Both he and my mother-in-law wore triumphant expressions, proud of their plans as they showcased their large carry-on bags. They seemed to find my confusion amusing, struggling not to laugh. Just before stepping out the door, Merrick added, "You'll take care of Dad while we're off to Hawaii. We'll be relaxing, so you handle everything here." With a chuckle, they both left and shut the door behind them. In that moment, something inside me snapped. Why was I left to manage everything alone? Enough is enough. I'm not going to put up with this any longer. I resolved that once they returned from Hawaii, I would file for divorce. I was done being treated like a servant. Until they came back, I decided to dedicate myself entirely to caring for my father-in-law. I stopped doing any extra housework and made a clear plan. I would let everything slide and focus solely on his care. The next morning, I prepared breakfast for him as usual. When I walked into his room with a towel to help him clean up and change, he greeted me with a smile. "Marigold, best wishes for the new year." "Happy New Year to you too, Dad," I replied, though my cheerfulness felt forced. I was still reeling from the events of the previous night. "Where did Merrick and Mom go? They seem to be in a hurry," he asked, looking puzzled. "They went to Hawaii," I said, trying to keep my tone light. I watched his expression shift as he let out a deep sigh. "Hawaii? Really?" He looked skeptical, shaking his head. "What's going on?" Suddenly, his mood changed and he gave me a curious smile. "Marigold, I've been waiting for the right moment to talk to you. I owe you an apology," he began, his voice calm yet serious. "Wait, what do you mean?" I asked, confused about where this was headed. He continued, "I've been able to get out of bed on my own for a few days now, but I kept it to myself. I wanted to see how things played out." Confused, I urged him to explain further. Slowly, he revealed everything. He had noticed how I was being mistreated, how Merrick and my mother-in-law had ignored his needs while piling all the responsibility onto me. "I asked them to help with small errands, but they refused," he explained. "They didn't care at all." It wasn't just that. My father-in-law also shared that he had received complaints from the company's executive director. Apparently, Merrick had been slacking off as acting president, and this trip to Hawaii was the final straw. My father-in-law suspected that Merrick had used company funds to pay for it, so he had asked a representative to monitor Merrick's actions. Sure enough, Merrick's mismanagement and laziness were exposed, injuring everyone at the company. "As soon as I get back, I'll be returning as president," my father-in-law told me. "And as for Merrick, I'm going to fire him. He's not fit for this role." Then he revealed another surprise. While Merrick and my mother-in-law were away, we were going to change the locks on the house. They won't be coming back here, he said firmly. I was stunned but felt a wave of relief wash over me. Things were finally falling into place. A week passed, and then one afternoon, the doorbell rang. The front door rattled as Merrick and my mother-in-law, fresh from Hawaii, tried to get inside. The intercom buzzed incessantly. I picked it up and calmly greeted them. "How was your trip?" I asked, feigning cheerfulness. "What?" "Marigold, open the door," Merrick demanded, sounding frantic. "We can't get in." "I can't do that," I replied coolly. "Your father told me not to." "What are you talking about? Just open the door already," he pleaded. "Oh, and by the way," I continued, "I heard your trip was paid for with company funds. Care to explain that?" His voice faltered. How? How did you know about that?" I watched their shocked faces on the monitor, struggling to hold back my laughter. Just then, my father-in-law joined the conversation, his voice firm and authoritative. "So, you really did embezzle money from the company, didn't you?" Merrick was taken aback. "Dad, you? How are you standing?" "I've been able to stand for days now, thanks to Marigold helping me with my rehab," he replied. "And I know about your behavior at work, thanks to the managing director. You've been lazy and irresponsible." "Dad, no, that's not true," Merrick stammered, panic rising in his voice. "Enough," my father-in-law cut him off. "You're fired. You're no longer welcome at the company. Pack up your things and leave the office immediately." Merrick was now in tears, pleading through the monitor. "Marigold, please, you won't leave me, will you?" I couldn't hold back any longer. "What are you talking about? Do you have any idea what you've put me through? You and your mother have taken advantage of me from the start, forcing me to care for your father while treating me like a servant. Do you even realize how much I've suffered?" "Calm down, Marigold. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry," he cried. "Your apology means nothing," I replied coldly. "When you left for Hawaii, I realized there was no point in continuing this marriage. I don't want anything more to do with you. I'm done." Merrick stood there, dazed, as my mother-in-law rushed to support him. It was a pitiful sight, mother and son united in defeat. My father-in-law, holding the divorce papers I had picked up earlier, stepped forward and handed them to Merrick. "Sign these now," he ordered. Merrick and my mother-in-law signed the papers without protest, knowing they had no other choice. I kicked them out of the house and locked the door behind them, ignoring their pleas as they pounded on the door and begged to be let back in. Since that day, I haven't seen either of them. Rumor has it they're both unemployed and living in a comic book cafe, picking up odd jobs just to get by. It's a far cry from the comfortable life they used to lead, but I believe it's the punishment they deserve. After the divorce, my father-in-law graciously told me, "I'll hire a housekeeper from now on. You're free to live your own life." I took his advice and moved into a place closer to my job. Now, I'm living a peaceful, fulfilling life, and I'll always be grateful to my father-in-law for helping me escape that nightmare. I'm determined to repay his kindness in any way I can. As I glanced around the nearly empty room, I asked, "Are you ready to leave yet?" A sigh escaped my companion. "Just waiting for the movers," they replied, a tinge of relief in their voice. "Honestly, I won't miss seeing you around. And the way you changed the locks, as if I'd try to break in, that was a bit much." Had always been curious about why such extreme precautions were necessary, but now it seemed almost irrelevant. When I first met Kevin, he was a quiet man, always concerned about what others thought. After we got married, he became the epitome of a henpecked husband. A week after I settled into my new home, Kevin showed up, desperate. "It's me. Open up," he urged. I pretended not to recognize him, meeting his panic with feigned ignorance. "I'm Carol, a 34-year-old who works part-time 4 days a week," I said through the door. "It's been 3 years since Kevin and I tied the knot. We don't have children, but I always thought we could still find happiness together." In the early days of our marriage, we stayed up late talking about our dreams for the future. We were both new to love, cautious at first, but I thought we genuinely enjoyed each other's company. "Let's be that couple that grows old together," I suggested one night. "Yeah, I like that idea. Maybe 3 kids, a boy and a girl." "That's exactly what I was thinking," I agreed. Those light-hearted conversations were delightful to someone like me who had never really been interested in love or marriage. Meeting Kevin had been unexpected. We met at a party I attended out of obligation, not enthusiasm. He seemed to be there under similar pretenses, and we bonded over our shared disinterests, gradually becoming friends. He was serious, a bit reserved, but always kind, and I found that charming. Then, out of nowhere, he proposed. "Carol, will you marry me? I want to make you happy." "What? But we're not even dating yet, right?" I stammered. He acknowledged that with a steady gaze. His proposal didn't push me away. Instead, it made me consider the possibility of a life with him. "If you're okay with me, then yes, I accept." His joy was undeniable. In that moment, I remembered how life can throw us these unexpected, fateful curves. When Kevin proposed, I truly believed that marrying him would lead to happiness. We rushed into marriage, tying the knot just 2 months after meeting. With little experience in love, our journey was clumsy at times, but that made it feel like an adventure. However, about a month after we moved in together, I started noticing the growing gap between my expectations and the reality of our marriage. One day, Kevin approached me with a seriousness more intense than usual. "Carol, there's something I need to talk about," he said gravely. I was startled when he asked me to quit my job and become a full-time homemaker. It was unexpected. He had never shown dissatisfaction with my working before, and this marked the beginning of an odd shift in his behavior. "Why would you ask that?" I questioned, confused by his sudden change. "When you work, it makes me feel unneeded," he confessed. "Did someone put that idea in your head?" I asked, trying to understand his insecurity. "No," he replied, "but at my company, all the other men's wives stay at home. It's just how things are there." I had made it clear from the start that I intended to keep working, especially since saving money was crucial to our plans. But we agreed I would continue working after we got married, didn't we? I reminded him. "I know," he said, "but as my wife, I hoped you'd consider my feelings," Kevin said, though it was clear his concern was more about meeting social expectations than our mutual happiness. "Why not just pretend I've quit? There's no need for me to actually leave my job," I suggested, reluctant to give up my career. But Kevin's anxiety about appearances only deepened. "If things don't change, I'll be ridiculed by my colleagues and bosses. I'm supposed to be the head of this household, aren't I? Please just do as I ask," he insisted, unwilling to listen to my reasoning. "I can't make that decision right away," I replied, needing time to weigh my options. "All right," he said, though his tone carried an undercurrent of urgency. "But please decide soon." I knew I couldn't let this issue drag on for long. I feared what might follow if I didn't act decisively. Seeking advice, I turned to my boss, Madison. Madison had been an administrative assistant since high school and had faced a similar situation with a controlling ex-husband, which ultimately led to her divorce. Now she was a dedicated single mother, resilient and independent, and someone I greatly admired. "That must have been tough," I said, voicing my thoughts as I reflected on her strength. Divorce had crossed my mind too, but I wasn't ready to take that step. Kevin and I were still new to marriage, and I wanted to believe we could navigate this. "It's tricky being newlyweds," I admitted, pondering the weight of quitting my job. "I haven't fully thought it through, but leaving my position would make it hard to find a replacement. I want to find a way to keep working, if possible." Madison, who had become a mentor to me, listened intently. "I don't plan to quit immediately," I continued. "Maybe I could stick with my part-time schedule for now. Switching to full-time might attract too much attention from Kevin." "That sounds like a smart move," Madison agreed, her support steady and reassuring. "If he still objects, you could propose officially reducing your hours to part-time. That might give you the flexibility you need." "That's a sensible plan," I said, relieved to have a clear strategy. "Remember," Madison added with a warm smile, "you can always count on me for advice." "I'm here to support you," Madison reassured me, offering a lifeline in the turbulent sea of my marital issues. "Thank you. I really appreciate it," I replied, grateful for her understanding. As our conversation deepened, Madison shared how her ex-husband had also changed drastically after they married, a situation eerily similar to mine. This revelation was eye-opening. I hadn't considered that some men could transform so completely after marriage, becoming almost unrecognizable from the person they once were. Seeing my circumstances through this new lens, I began to wonder, had I been misled? Despite countless discussions, Kevin and I remained at an impasse. Isn't it a woman's role after marriage to support her husband and manage the household? He argued, clinging stubbornly to outdated norms. What era are you living in? I asked, disbelief washing over me. Nowadays, it's normal for both spouses to work. Maybe for other couples, he said, trying to persuade me, but we're different. You see that, don't you? I understand where you're coming from, but I can't agree with it, I responded, stating my ground. Please try to see things from my perspective. Kevin, however, persisted, pressuring me daily to quit my job. His efforts were relentless, but I wasn't ready to give in. I consulted Madison, and together we came up with a plan. I would officially resign, but in truth, I would continue working part-time. Thankfully, Madison understood my situation and adjusted my hours to accommodate this secret arrangement. I've resigned from my job just as you wanted, I told Kevin, keeping up the facade. Really? He asked, a wave of relief washing over his face. Thank you. Now I can finally feel more secure at work. His reaction confirmed what I had suspected all along. Kevin was more concerned about appearances than our relationship. The man I thought I had married was slipping further away, leaving behind someone obsessed with how others saw him. I had hoped that this deception would protect both my independence and our marriage, but it soon became clear that my hopes were misplaced. Despite our so-called new beginning, Kevin continued to exert control over me, venting his frustrations in subtle, oppressive ways. Then one day, without warning, he sprung another demand on me. A junior colleague is coming over today, he said nonchalantly. I need you to host, Kevin said abruptly over the phone. I had no idea, I replied, caught off guard. Sorry, it was a last-minute decision. Just keep it simple, please. Get everything ready. Before I could respond, he hung up. Determined to fulfill his request, I hurried to prepare drinks and snacks. I thought I had done enough. After all, he'd said to keep it simple. But when Kevin arrived, he looked displeased. Didn't I ask you to prepare for today? He chided, his tone sharp. You said to keep it basic, and I did exactly that. What's the issue? I asked, genuinely confused by his reaction. This reflects poorly on me, he muttered, ignoring my question. I need you to fulfill your role as a wife properly. What exactly does that mean? I asked, frustration creeping into my voice. I did my best. Is there something wrong with what I prepared? No, not really, he admitted, though his expression was unreadable, a stark contrast to the kind man I had once known. From that day on, Kevin began inviting guests over almost every weekend, reveling in the social gatherings while expecting me to manage everything behind the scenes. It felt like he was trying to impress his colleagues, using me to bolster his image as a capable husband. This is getting excessive, Kevin, I ventured cautiously one evening. No, it's fine. Everyone enjoys it, and you should support my decisions. It's your duty as my wife, he insisted, brushing off my concerns. Maintaining this lifestyle was draining and expensive. How exactly am I supposed to manage all this? I asked, trying to stay calm. Stop complaining, he snapped dismissively. Any question I raised was met with the same cold response, as if my concerns were mere nagging. Every morning, I woke early to prepare breakfast, pack Kevin's lunch, and make sure his suit was pressed and ready. When I worked part-time from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., there was barely any time to catch my breath. Despite everything, my job became a small refuge, one of the few places where I felt like myself. Carol, you seem really tired lately. Are you okay? My coworker Deborah asked one day, noticing the exhaustion I couldn't hide. Yeah, a bit, honestly, I admitted with a weary smile. If you need anything, I'm here for you, she said gently. Thank you, Deborah. You've been such a reliable support. Unlike Kevin, Deborah saw the toll it was taking on me. She also knew about my secret part-time job and kept it hidden from Kevin, offering me the quiet understanding I desperately needed. I appreciate everything, Deborah, I whispered, grateful beyond words for her kindness. I never thought Kevin would behave this way, Deborah confessed one day, her voice heavy with concern. Neither did I. I've tried talking to him, but he won't listen. We hardly have meaningful conversations anymore, I sighed, feeling the weight of it all. If only I were stronger. Don't be too hard on yourself. You're managing work and household tasks admirably. I can see how much effort you put in, and I appreciate everything you do, she said with warmth. Her kindness was a lifeline. Living with Deborah's support had been a blessing, a stark contrast to the tension I felt at home. However, Kevin grew uncomfortable with how close Deborah and I had become. That discomfort soon led him to make a shocking and sudden decision. "Where's Deborah?" I asked, noticing her absence one afternoon. "Mom's gone," Kevin replied casually. "Gone? What do you mean?" My confusion grew. "I thought it would be best for her to be in a facility. She's getting older," he said, as if it were the most logical thing in the world. "You actually placed her in a home?" I asked, my voice cracking with disbelief. "Yeah, I just finished settling her in. Now I have the house to myself," he responded, almost as if it had been a routine chore. I was at my parents' house when this happened, and I was stunned that he had unilaterally decided to send Deborah away. She wasn't frail enough to need full-time care, and it quickly became clear that his decision was more about getting rid of her than concern for her well-being. When I visited Deborah at the facility, she looked surprised but not angry, just resigned. "I'm sorry it had to come to this," I apologized, my guilt weighing heavily. "It's not your fault," she reassured me, her voice calm. "I never expected him to go to such lengths. I'm worried about what he might do next, but I'll manage. I'll miss you, but if you ever need anything, you're always welcome here." "Thank you," I whispered, feeling the gravity of the situation settle in. Afterward, Kevin and I moved into his parents' house. Despite managing all the household responsibilities, Kevin never acknowledged my efforts or showed any gratitude. The idea of having children, once an exciting topic, now seemed completely out of reach. Kevin often dismissed me, choosing to spend more time away from home. On top of that, he began imposing unreasonable rules. No matter how late he came home, I was expected to stay awake until he arrived. If I woke up after him in the morning, it would spark his frustration. "What time will you be home today?" I asked, knowing it would determine the rhythm of my night, yet again. "Just stay up until I get back, okay?" Kevin instructed one evening as usual. But something felt off. When he returned home, I took his suit to hang it up and noticed a strange, sweet scent lingering in the fabric, a perfume I didn't recognize. I didn't wear perfume. The fragrance clung to him unmistakably, a silent confession of his infidelity. Every time he came home late, I caught faint traces of that same perfume. Then, one night, Kevin did something out of character. He suggested I go to bed before him. My suspicions deepened. Quietly, I stayed awake, sneaking into the living room where I overheard a conversation that confirmed everything. "Oh, she's clueless. When are you going to leave her?" a woman's voice asked. "I'll kick her out soon enough," Kevin replied nonchalantly, his voice clear. Their words cut through the silence, revealing that their affair had been going on for some time. While the discovery of the affair didn't shock me, it disgusted me. Kevin, still technically my husband, had become someone I no longer recognized. Despite my fleeting hopes that things might turn around, his treatment of me remained cold and unchanging. We were approaching our 3-year anniversary, and instead of things improving, Kevin dropped another bombshell. "I have a business trip the day after tomorrow. I need you to get everything ready," he announced abruptly. "That's very short notice," I replied, feeling my suspicion rise again. His trips had become a recurring excuse, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just another cover for spending time with his mistress. I remembered the warning from a colleague's wife at a company gathering. "Be cautious if he suddenly mentions a business trip. Our company doesn't even have those." Her words echoed in my mind, solidifying my doubts. I had already confirmed my suspicions earlier when I stumbled upon a chat on Kevin's phone. He'd taken paid leave, disguising this business trip as something legitimate. That was the moment I knew it was over. Armed with undeniable proof of his affair, I prepared to confront him with divorce papers the moment he returned. However, Kevin beat me to it. As soon as he got home, he looked at me coldly and said, "Are you ready to leave? The movers will be here soon." "What? Why are you saying this all of a sudden?" I asked, stunned by his blunt directive. "I need you to be gone before I get back," he demanded, his voice void of emotion. And just like that, the final chapter of our marriage had begun to close, but this time, I was ready to write my own ending. "What?" I exclaimed, incredulous. "You can't just spring this on me and expect me to leave immediately." "Then I'll wait a bit, but you need to start preparing to leave," he replied dismissively. "Goodbye." I never imagined my once timid and overly concerned husband could transform into such a domineering partner. This was the final straw. The future I had envisioned with him felt like a distant memory, overshadowed by the reality of living with a man I could no longer trust. What came next? I wondered aloud. This could get interesting. Have the movers arrived yet? No need to rush, they should be here soon. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, I'm changing the locks on the house, he added casually. All right, got it, I said, my heart sinking. The thought of never seeing his face again was oddly relieving. After nearly 3 years of marriage, I was convinced our relationship was irreversibly over. I quickly gathered my things and left the house, instructing my lawyer to file for divorce. Despite our circumstances, Kevin boldly posted pictures with his mistress on social media, displaying a level of audacity I couldn't comprehend. How could he be so reckless, providing even more evidence of his affair? Even our mutual friends noticed his strange behavior, marking the public unraveling of what we once shared. After leaving my in-laws' home, I transitioned back to full-time work and moved into a spacious high-rise apartment in the suburbs, a place I had long dreamed of living. It felt wonderfully liberating to be on my own, free from Kevin's presence. About a month after settling in, I was jolted awake one morning by the doorbell. Peering through the monitor, I was stunned to see Kevin standing outside. Hey, it's me, Kevin. Open up, Carol. He called out, his voice presumptuous and demanding. His sudden appearance and entitlement were beyond comprehension. Deciding to feign ignorance, I thought it would be more amusing than outright rejecting him. Who are you? I'm sorry, but I don't know you, I replied through the intercom. Don't tell me you've forgotten your husband's face. I'm not married. I think you've mistaken me for someone else, I continued, watching as desperation washed over him. His face was a shadow of the timid man I once knew. Please just listen. I've been deceived, and I need Carol's help, he pleaded. I'm sorry, but I'm not obligated to assist you. If you persist, I'll have to call the police. Seriously, I don't know you. I was resolute in treating him as a stranger. Kevin must have thought I would always be there to solve his problems, but I was no longer that person who tolerated such dependency. That's it, you made this mess, so it's up to you to fix it, I replied coldly. You don't have to be so tough on me, he whimpered. Oh, and by the way, can't stay at your parents' place anymore, he added abruptly. What do you mean? Do you know whose name the house is under? I asked, surprised by his statement. No, but it used to belong to Deborah. Now, it's in my name, he explained, revealing a significant change he was unaware of. Kevin had insisted I leave when I confided in Deborah, which visibly upset and disappointed her. I can't believe my son has turned out like this. I'm truly sorry, especially after all the help you've given us, Deborah had said during one of our conversations. Deborah, you're divorcing Kevin, aren't you? She had asked. Yes, it's for the best, I confirmed. In that case, I'll transfer the house to you, she offered, making a decision that took both me and presumably Kevin by surprise. Why would Deborah transfer their rights to their in-laws' house to me? Kevin would undoubtedly be puzzled by such a turn of events, unaware that he had been living with his mistress throughout all this turmoil. That's the situation. Understand and leave promptly, I concluded, shutting down any further attempts at reconciliation or intrusion into my life. We likely wouldn't cross paths again, but I made it clear to him that if he persisted, I would not hesitate to call the police. With that firm warning, he finally relented and left. The divorce proceeded as planned, and I received the settlement we had agreed upon. As it turned out, Kevin had been missold and financially exploited by his mistress. Moreover, the divorce settlement amounted to approximately $410,000. His mistress abandoned him as soon as the money dried up, but I was determined not to let matters end there. I hired both a lawyer and a detective to ensure that all financial claims against him were thoroughly pursued. Additionally, I sought a further divorce settlement claim to secure over $22,000 more. Furthermore, the ownership of the house was officially transferred to me. I insisted that Kevin vacate the premises, and though he initially resisted, legal proceedings left him with no choice but to comply. As for his current whereabouts, I remained blissfully unaware and frankly uninterested. Eventually, his company caught wind of the photos he had posted with his mistress on social media. Unable to endure the scrutiny and the unraveling of his past facade, Kevin chose to resign voluntarily. This outcome seemed inevitable given his true character. If I had one last thing to say about the entire ordeal, it would be this. I don't dwell on it. I am divorced now, and I view it as a learning opportunity, an opening to move forward positively. My bond with Deborah endures, and I intend to focus on my career independently, relishing life as a single individual and embracing all the freedom and opportunities it offers. Hello, my name is Donna. I'm a 38-year-old woman who has recently freed myself from an oppressive marriage. Let me tell you, separating from my husband felt like stepping into a new realm of freedom. My ex-husband, Michael, and I initially met through a blind date set up by a mutual friend. From the start, I was captivated by his striking looks and magnetic charm. Michael seemed to possess all the qualities I desired in a partner. We shared numerous interests, and our conversations flowed effortlessly. For the first 7 months, we enjoyed casual dating, taking turns organizing fun and engaging activities. Once we officially became a couple, we continued our dynamic outings, and after a year, we moved in together. During that time, I learned about Michael's financial struggles. Despite my attempts to offer guidance to help him advance in his career, he rarely took my advice seriously. Still, he managed to earn enough to meet his needs, and I was willing to support both of us financially. 3 years into our relationship, we tied the knot, and a year later, we decided to buy a house. I secured the mortgage solely in my name due to my superior credit score, a choice I now regard as particularly fortunate. However, 4 years into our marriage, I began to notice a troubling shift in Michael's behavior. He grew increasingly demanding and stopped contributing to household chores, claiming he was too busy with work. Despite my understanding and efforts to manage everything on my own, the burden became overwhelming. When I confronted Michael about this, he would momentarily promise to change, but we quickly fell back into our old patterns. This was frustrating, yet I tolerated it out of love and a desire to fully support him. Unfortunately, our relationship began to suffer, especially in terms of fun and leisure, as I simply didn't have the time or energy for either. It was under these strange circumstances that I discovered Michael's infidelity. I stumbled upon the truth quite unexpectedly when he left his phone unlocked while he took a shower. I had no intention of snooping. I just wanted to charge his phone. But a notification caught my eye, a message from a woman named Isabella, asking Michael how long it would be until he left his pathetic wife to meet her at a nearby motel. The shock and heartbreak hit me like a tidal wave. I couldn't believe Michael was capable of such betrayal. Our marriage had seemed solid. He always greeted me warmly, and we rarely argued. The pain was overwhelming, a gut-wrenching mix of sorrow and nausea as my world crumbled. Yet, at that moment, I knew I had to confront this head-on. I left Michael's phone exactly as I found it, with the message still open, ensuring he would know I had seen it when he returned. When Michael emerged from the shower and saw his phone, the realization hit him. He tried to avoid the conversation, but I was determined to address it. "I know about the affair. We need to talk," I stated firmly. "I don't think we should," he replied, clearly flustered. "Who is she? I assume you saw enough to know her name. When did it start?" "A year ago. Can we not do this right now? Why did you start seeing her? Please, let's not do this." "Don't call me babe. Tell me." "I don't know. I guess I just miss the thrill of someone new, someone who's on the same wavelength as me." "So, I'm not on the same wavelength as you?" "Well, I wouldn't say that exactly. It's just that you've become a bit dull." "Excuse me. I mean, you never want to go out. You're always tired, and our social life, even our life in the bedroom, has faded. Do you realize I'm always tired because handle all the chores and work full-time, yet you've never once offered to help? That's just your role as my wife," he snapped. "I told you to stay at home, but you refuse. Still, that doesn't excuse you from contributing around the house." This confrontation marked a turning point for me, revealing just how differently we viewed marriage and our responsibilities. His words shattered the foundation of trust and mutual respect I thought we had built. "I'm the head of the house," he declared. "I can do whatever I want. If that means having an affair for some fun, then so be it." Michael's assertion cut through the air, showcasing his distorted view of freedom within our marriage. I had hoped for a conversation that might help us mend our relationship, but it was clear he had no intention of engaging. "I don't think anything will change. You're just too dull. I'm happy to stay married, but I'll continue seeing Isabella. I need some space from you," he declared, his tone devoid of any remorse. As he retreated to another room, the weight of his words pressed down on me. He was unapologetic and dismissive, reducing me to a mere role within our home. Michael, who had once seemed progressive, had succumbed to outdated gender roles. Influenced by podcasts that preached that women were too outspoken and needed to be kept in line, it was devastating to see him transform into someone who not only embraced these ideas but also refused to acknowledge the harm they inflicted. Moments later, I heard the front door close behind him. He had left to meet Isabella. Overwhelmed by a sense of abandonment and betrayal, I broke down, unable to bear the solitude or the storm of emotions swirling inside me. I called my best friend, Judy, and she answered immediately. Sensing the distress in my voice, she rushed over with comforting hugs and tubs of ice cream. Judy didn't press for details. Instead, she simply held me as I cried. When I finally calmed down enough, I opened up about the painful truth. Michael is cheating on me, Judy. It's true. Are you sure? She asked, a frown of concern etching her face. Absolutely. His phone was unlocked, and I saw a message from a woman asking when he was leaving his pathetic wife to meet her. What the hell? Did you confront him about it? Yes, but he barely wanted to talk, I replied, the weight of the situation crashing down around me. Judy stayed with me through the night, offering the silent, steadfast support I desperately needed to face the reality of my crumbling marriage. As we sat together, the enormity of my situation settled in, but even amidst the uncertainty, I knew I wasn't alone. I finally confronted him and uncovered the painful truth. He had been cheating on me for a year. He claimed I had become too boring, always too tired, and never up for anything fun. Despite managing nearly everything at home, he dismissed my efforts, insisting that it was simply my role as his wife. Well then, I remarked to Judy, still reeling from the shock, his role as a husband should have been more honorable. But here he is, cheating on his wife. Judy shook her head in disbelief. That's just a pathetic excuse. Did he even apologize? Not for a moment, I replied. He just blamed me and chose to spend the night with her. Honestly, Judy, if I had to face him now, I don't know what I'd do. So, what are you thinking about doing next? She asked. I'm not sure. Michael said he doesn't mind staying married, but I can't continue like this. Why don't you stay with me until you figure things out? I'll help you through everything, Judy offered. That would be amazing. Thank you so much, Judy. I really appreciate your support. We spent the rest of the evening trying to unwind by watching our favorite movies. It was a much-needed distraction, but the reality of my situation lingered in the back of my mind. The next morning, Judy helped me pack a few things to take to her place. Once I settled in at her home, my curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to look up Isabella. I still had access to Michael's social media on my phone, a privilege I had never abused before because I had trusted him completely. To my dismay, I discovered that he had muted notifications for messages from Isabella, which explained why the affair had remained hidden for so long. It turned out that Isabella was a coworker of his, someone who reported directly to him. She was 38 years younger than me and 11 years younger than Michael. The realization alone was enough to turn my stomach. This discovery only solidified my decision to move forward with my life. I knew I had to divorce Michael. I couldn't bear the betrayal, nor could I live with someone who viewed me as merely an obligation. With Judy's unwavering support, I began taking steps to reclaim my life and dignity. Before filing for divorce, I needed to sort a few things out. Judy and I spent time strategizing not only the logistics of the separation but also how to ensure that Michael wouldn't get off too lightly for his betrayal. My first step was to safeguard my finances by transferring all the money I had contributed to our joint account into my personal account, one to which Michael had no access. In the days that followed, as I set the wheels in motion to file for divorce, I heard nothing from Michael. I was stunned to realize he hadn't even bothered to check in on me. His indifference underscored how little he valued our relationship. When I eventually returned home to collect more of my belongings, I found Michael lounging on the couch. His predictable yet irritating reaction greeted me. "Where have you been? Why haven't you told me where you were?" he demanded, his voice laced with a feigned concern that failed to mask his true detachment. "Why do I need to explain myself to you? You hadn't called once. Don't pretend to care now," I retorted, my patience wearing thin. "I'm sorry, but finding out about your infidelity because you think I'm too boring doesn't exactly inspire politeness," I added sarcastically. Michael seemed taken aback but quickly shifted the conversation to finances. "I noticed you withdrew a large sum from our joint account," he said. attempting to sound casual but clearly concerned. Yes, I took back my money. Why should I let you squander what I've worked hard to earn? Challenged him. What do you think you're doing? You need to put that money back, he demanded, his tone shifting to a threatening edge. Or what, Michael? You'll kick me out? Move in with Isabella and have your sister move in here. I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity. Put the money back in 3 hours or I'll make sure everything changes by tomorrow, he threatened. I responded with silence, walking past him to our room. I quickly packed the rest of my clothes and essentials, leaving Michael to stew in his frustration. Once back at Judy's place, I recounted the entire encounter. Furious on my behalf, Judy insisted we consult a lawyer immediately. Fortunately, she knew someone who could help. We met with her lawyer friend, who began by asking about the house. I explained that both the mortgage and the title were solely in my name, a result of my well-paying job in a specialized field. This detail was crucial. It meant I had significant leverage in the upcoming legal proceedings. With Judy's support and the lawyer's guidance, I felt better equipped to face the challenges ahead. Earning significantly more than Michael, it made sense for me to handle the mortgage and purchase our home, establishing it entirely in my name. This financial arrangement was straightforward and practical, considering our respective incomes. Everything the house needed was purchased by me. When I consulted with my lawyer about the impending divorce, he reassured me that the house would legally remain mine, lifting a weight off my shoulders. He also explained that if Michael's sister, Karen, moved in without my consent, I could easily issue an eviction notice. The next morning, despite the tension, Michael informed me that Karen had moved in because I hadn't reversed the money transfer. I kept the conversation brief, which only fueled his anger, and he ended the call abruptly. Following my lawyer's advice, I started recording all conversations with Michael to maintain a reliable record for potential court use. My strategy moving forward was clear, with 2 possible outcomes. I would serve Karen the eviction notice. If she complied, that would be the end of it. If not, I was prepared to take legal action, given our strained history. I had a feeling this wouldn't be straightforward. Karen had always harbored a peculiar animosity toward me, frequently trying to undermine or outshine me in petty ways. She even attempted to disrupt our wedding and consistently competed with me over trivial matters. Over the years, our relationship had deteriorated to the point where I had to limit contact with her. Michael, overly protective and indulgent toward his sister, often put me in uncomfortable situations. Karen's resentment only grew when she realized she couldn't surpass me in certain aspects of life, leading her to engage in petty theft whenever she visited our home. I frequently noticed missing items, designer clothes, shoes, and skincare products. Michael urged me to overlook these incidents, rationalizing that Karen's frugal lifestyle justified her taking some of our luxuries. I strongly disagreed and eventually banned her from visiting altogether. This decision didn't sit well with either Michael or Karen, but he was powerless to challenge it, given my legal rights over the property. The situation was complicated, but I was determined to stand my ground and take the necessary actions to protect my interests and ensure a fair resolution to our marital breakdown. Having had enough of Karen's antics and the significant thefts she had committed, I explained the extent of her actions to Michael. He understood that the damage went far beyond what could be easily rectified. However, that didn't stop Karen from trying to provoke me further. One day she called to flaunt her temporary triumph. "Hello, Donna. Guess where I am right now?" she taunted. "Michael told me you've moved in," I replied, keeping my tone even. "That's right. I have this huge, glorious house all to myself, something you don't," she gloated. "I still own the house. I've already sent you an eviction notice and you have 4 days to move out," I informed her calmly. "An eviction notice from you? Like, I'll take that seriously. This is my brother's house and he told me I could stay here, so I will," she retorted defiantly. "It's not his house, Karen. Regardless of what Michael told you, the legal documents clearly show that the property is mine." Yeah, marital property or whatever. But he has all the power here. He decided this was the best thing to do, she insisted, misunderstanding the situation entirely. "You really can't stop talking, can you? I see why my brother chose another woman," Karen snapped, hoping to hurt me further. "Well, I have nothing more to say. Goodbye," I said, ending the call just as I heard her spiteful laughter. If she didn't vacate within the 4 days, she would soon find out just how serious I was. I was fully prepared to take Karen to court. I had all the legal backing I needed. Unsurprisingly, she informed Michael about our conversation, and within an hour, he called, furious, questioning my aita to send her an eviction notice. As before, I chose not to engage with his anger. In the next 4 days, 2 significant events unfolded. I had the divorce papers delivered to Michael, who shockingly decided to contest them, and Karen still had not moved out. Following through on my threat, I had a court summons sent to her. Legally, she was considered a squatter. When Karen received the summons, she was visibly shocked to learn that the house was in my name, not her precious brother's. She confronted me, accusing me of trickery. "You set me up," she cried. "I did no such thing," I replied firmly. "I gave you ample warning and time to leave. I even told you to move out." The reality of her situation was finally starting to dawn on her, and I was ready to uphold my rights no matter what. Since Karen refused to heed my warnings, she had to face the consequences in court. My lawyer presented a solid case, including the eviction notice and recordings of phone calls where I repeatedly asked Karen to vacate the premises, all of which she blatantly refused. In my state, squatting is considered a serious offense, resulting in Karen being charged with a Class A misdemeanor. The look of utter defeat and humiliation on her face was deeply satisfying after enduring years of her antagonism. After the court proceedings, Michael and Karen, still unable to accept their defeat, confronted me at Judy's place, where I had been staying. "How could you do that to my little sister?" Michael demanded. "Your little sister has made my life miserable for years, and I finally put a stop to it in the only way I knew how. You initially agreed with my decision, yet the moment I stood up for myself, you sided with her," I responded, my frustration evident. "I only did that because she had nowhere else to go after the eviction. I was doing her a favor," Michael argued. "So, the house suddenly became an option because we're separating. If we weren't, would you have snuck her in?" I countered. Michael stumbled over his words, but I cut him off. "Save it, Michael. I don't want to hear anymore. I'll just see you in court." "How is the house even in your name? Your brother's name isn't on any of the documents," he exclaimed. "I've been the one paying off the mortgage and making all the repairs meticulously for the past 4 years. No matter how much your brother contests it in court, he won't get any ownership of the house. All he'll get is a much lighter wallet," I retorted. Karen interjected, clearly not grasping the legal reality. "You think I set him up?" "I did nothing of the sort. Your brother believes in being the man of the house, yet he avoids any real responsibilities, preferring that I do all the hard work while he reaps the benefits. Thank God that won't be my problem anymore," I shot back, my patience exhausted. With that, I slammed the door in their faces, ending the conversation. In the weeks that followed, Michael, realizing he wouldn't win the house, decided to contest every single possession we shared, down to the most trivial items like our dessert spoons. The battle was petty and exhausting, but I was prepared to fight for my peace and freedom, no matter how long it took. I was completely unfazed by Michael's attempts to claim our shared possessions. For every piece of furniture and item he claimed as his, I had the receipts clearly showing who had paid for them. In truth, he hadn't contributed much, so he was only going to get a minimal share. While Michael was preoccupied with this petty squabble, I took action on another front. I sent screenshots of his inappropriate communications with Judy to his company's HR department. Within 2 weeks, Michael was terminated from his job. Surprisingly, Isabella was not. I learned from some of Michael's colleagues, with whom I had remained friendly, that she had argued Michael coerced her into the relationship by threatening her professional standing. Understandably, the relationship did not survive this revelation. It took some time, but eventually the divorce was finalized, and I was officially free to celebrate my newfound independence and the successful resolution of a complex situation. Judy and I enjoyed a long celebration. It felt like a double victory. The last update I received on Michael and Karen was less than glamorous. They ended up living together in a modest apartment, both struggling to find jobs. Their parents were supporting them with a modest allowance, but they were far from pleased with their children's actions. My former in-laws even reached out to apologize for their behavior, a gesture that helped bring closure to the entire ordeal. Now free, I looked forward to what life had to offer next. This entire experience reinforced a valuable lesson: never forget my worth. It also showed me that I could handle myself in tough situations. I was a force to be reckoned with. Here's to moving forward, stronger and wiser. Cheers. Tonight, I had planned to unwind at a play, but my mother-in-law had different ideas. She arrived unexpectedly, accompanied by 9 friends, assuming they could all stay at my house while I was out. Despite my prior plans, she insisted on leaving their belongings at my place and asked if I could prepare dinner and sleeping arrangements for everyone, as if my evening was theirs to commandeer. Caught off guard by her audacity, and the necklace she wore, a piece I held dear, my frustration boiled over. I couldn't take it anymore. "I'm actually about to leave for a trip," I informed her, watching her surprise unfold. That was the breaking point. After enduring her relentless demands, I finally asserted myself. "Please return that necklace." It was time to establish the respect and boundaries I had long overlooked. My name is Julie, a 32-year-old who transitioned from an administrative role to teaching computer classes after getting married. My husband Eric manages his father's company and often seems preoccupied with its challenges. Our cherished moments together, like movie dates, bring him visible relief, a sight that warms my heart. Although I've always been more of a listener than a talker, Eric encourages me to voice my thoughts more confidently. My older brother has always been protective, which I once found stifling. Now, I see it as a form of support, much like what Eric provides. Eric's brother serves as vice president of their father's company, and his wife, Catherine, who is about my age, is also part of our intertwined lives. Catherine has always been someone I admire, ambitious, dependable, and kind-hearted. What truly stands out about her is her assertiveness and the way she confidently expresses her views, coupled with a remarkable ability to be understanding and adaptable. Witnessing her stand up to our mother-in-law was nothing short of impressive. Unfortunately, Catherine and her husband live quite far away, which means I don't see her as often as I'd like, a fact I often regret. On the other hand, my mother-in-law carries herself as if she owns the company. As the president's wife, she exudes confidence, but her stubbornness and arrogance are unmistakable. She frequently pressures me, insisting, "Julie, you're Eric's wife, the president. You should quit your job as a computer instructor and fully support your husband." While Eric stands by my choices, her dissatisfaction is palpable, and I'm thankful we don't live too close to her. I've always envisioned a simple, peaceful life with Eric, perhaps even with children in the future. However, everything changed when Eric's father unexpectedly passed away from a heart attack. It was a shock to us all, leaving Eric and his brother to navigate the future of the family business. During this turbulent time, Eric decided to relocate to Philadelphia to work at the company's main office, while his brother stepped up as the new president, with Eric becoming vice president. We found a cozy house in Philadelphia, slightly removed from the hustle and bustle and a bit far from the nearest train station, but it promised a peaceful, sunlit life. With all the changes at work, Eric often came home late, so I took it upon myself to ensure our home was a warm and welcoming place. I prepared healthy meals to support Eric during these challenging times, and as the weeks turned into a month, his appreciation for my efforts became increasingly evident. "I'm back. I'm starving," he would announce as he entered the house, to which I would respond with a smile. "Thanks for working so hard. I'll make dinner." One day he mentioned, "Hey, Julie, my mom wants to visit this weekend. Is that okay?" Knowing she might be feeling lonely after the loss of Eric's father, I was more than willing to welcome her. "Of course," I replied, although I was aware that we still had some tidying up to do. "She's welcome," I assured him, and he quickly said he'd let his mom know. He then suggested inviting his brother and Catherine too, to which I happily agreed. It might sound odd, but relocating here meant I could see Catherine more often, which turned out to be a delightful surprise. That weekend, we gathered to catch up and reminisce about my father-in-law. It was a bittersweet occasion. While we all felt the loss deeply, I didn't want to dwell on sadness forever. "My mother has picked up a new hobby," Eric's mother shared, her effortless elegance shining through as she spoke. Today, she wore a stylish, light purple scarf that added to her commanding presence, even if she seemed a bit thinner than before. Her authority was especially noticeable when she offered advice to Eric and his brother on business matters since the passing of my father-in-law. I noticed that Eric's mother became more exacting with me. "Julie, we're running out of drinks. Could you go buy some?" she directed at me. Just then, Catherine offered to go instead. "Oh, could you? That would be helpful," she replied to Catherine, her tone noticeably softer than how she spoke to me. I suspected she was struggling with her grief, so I chose to overlook her sharp comments for the moment. After dinner, Eric kindly drove everyone home, marking the end of the evening. However, this was just the beginning of more frequent visits from my mother-in-law, who soon began critiquing how I maintained the house, voicing complaints about Catherine, and even rummaging through her fridge uninvited. Julie, Eric is so busy right now. You should be careful with the meals you prepare for him. What if he gets sick too? She cautioned me one day, followed by a remark about some leftover trash. Can't you clean up properly? Her criticism seemed endless, a way to pass the time, but it was always directed at me, never at Catherine, who she would quickly dismiss with claims of other engagements. It wasn't that she disliked me. Perhaps it was simply easier for her to boss around someone who seldom argued back, unlike Catherine, who always stood her ground. This environment made me consider getting the job just to spend less time at home. However, even after securing a position, the situation with my mother-in-law only intensified. Julie, we're out of teriyaki sauce, so pick some up while you're out, she commanded, even as she brought leftovers to take back with her. Her sense of entitlement often left me speechless, especially knowing she could easily afford such things herself. Then one day, a deeply cherished necklace, a keepsake from my mother, vanished from its usual spot. My immediate suspicion fell on my mother-in-law, who was frequently at our house and seemed too familiar with where I kept my belongings. After a fruitless search, I reluctantly confronted her, only to be met with fierce anger. You probably lost it yourself. How dare you accuse me? What kind of person are you? She shouted. I tried to explain that the necklace was a special keepsake from my mother and held immense sentimental value for me, but her response only deepened the wound. I don't care, it's just a necklace. Why don't you ask Eric to buy you a new one? Realizing she couldn't grasp the importance of the necklace, I decided to drop the subject. But then more things began to disappear, money from my wallet and various items around the house. Despite keeping a wary eye on her, I never caught her in the act. Exhausted and confused, I confided in Catherine, who agreed that my mother-in-law was the likely culprit, given that no one else had such access to our home. It saddened me to think that way, but without concrete evidence, I felt powerless. Seeing how troubled I was, Catherine suggested a getaway. You need a break, Julie. Why not join me for a short vacation? The idea of stepping away from it all was appealing. I felt drained, and the thought of a little escape was rejuvenating. So 3 weeks later, as Eric and his brother prepare for a business trip to meet with a company in another state, Catherine and I finalize our plans. I'm heading out, Julie. Just relax and enjoy your time, Catherine encouraged as we got ready. Take care, I replied, grateful for the chance to recharge and hopeful that a little distance might offer some perspective on the chaotic happenings at home. I packed early, eager for the respite that awaited. My travel bag was ready by the door, and I was just about to leave when the doorbell rang. Curious, I checked the video feed and saw my mother-in-law standing at the door, not alone but with a group of friends in tow. Hi, Julie. I brought some friends. Can you let us in? She greeted me as if it were a normal visit. Opening the door, I found her and about 9 friends, all laden with heavy bags. We're staying over tonight. Make us feel comfortable, she announced, as if it were a done deal. Didn't I mention? We're going to see a play nearby tonight, and since it ends late, we decided to stay here, she added casually. This was completely unexpected, especially since I was about to leave for my plans when my mother-in-law interrupted. Oh, did I inconvenience you? Kayla told me you were okay with it, she said, trying to justify her imposition. I was taken aback by her audacity. I'm sorry, but I wasn't informed about this, and I already have plans, I replied, trying to maintain my composure. She seemed surprised but quickly retorted, but you'll be back soon, right? We'll just drop our bags and go out for a while. Can you make dinner and set up beds for us? Ignoring my stated plans, she acted as if everything was already settled. I can't. I'm going on a trip with Catherine. Oh, just for Catherine? You can go anytime. We've come all this way just for today. How long are you going to make us wait? She persisted, completely disregarding my needs. Then something caught my eye, a glint of metal around her neck. It was the necklace, a cherished memento from my mother. Wait. That necklace you're wearing, I began, my voice trailing off in shock. To my astonishment, it was indeed the same necklace. Kayla, where did you get that necklace? I asked, trying to keep my composure. Why, it's just one of my collections. Is there a problem? She replied smugly, clearly enjoying the control she felt she had. That can't be right. That necklace is rare and a limited edition. I countered, feeling a mix of anger and betrayal. Just then, Catherine arrived, puzzled as to why I hadn't met her as planned. I was wondering why you didn't show up at our meeting place and didn't contact me. So this is what was happening, she said upon entering. I'm sorry I couldn't get in touch, I replied, the stress evident in my voice. Noticing my distress, Catherine quickly picked up on the tension. What's going on? She asked, her eyes darting between me and the necklace. I was upset and blurted out, the necklace she's wearing is the same one that belonged to my mother, the one that recently went missing, the one I kept in that special box. I explained, barely holding back tears. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Catherine spoke up loudly enough for everyone to hear, reinforcing the significance of the necklace and its sudden, mysterious appearance around my mother-in-law's neck. In a hushed voice, desperate to keep the matter from her friends, my mother-in-law whispered, "Can you both stop this? It's embarrassing. Do you want to accuse me of theft?" Her face flushed with indignation. "Yes, I find it suspicious," Catherine replied firmly, not backing down. "Do you have any proof that I stole it?" My mother-in-law shot back, "It's embarrassing to have such unreasonable daughters-in-law. Please don't make a scene in front of my friends." She then turned back to her group with a forced smile. "Well, let's go inside, everyone," she attempted to usher her friends inside. A crucial detail flashed in my mind. "Kayla, can I have a look at the necklace, please?" I asked, needing to confirm my suspicion. Catherine circled behind her for a closer look. "Enough of this. What's your mother's name?" My mother-in-law snapped, trying to dismiss us. "It's Amanda." There it was. I spotted the engraving. "The initials AR are right here," I pointed out. Upon seeing the engraving, her friends looked horrified and began to distance themselves. "Stop this. I didn't come here for this. Let's go, everyone," my mother-in-law urged, her tone frantic. "We're not letting you leave," Catherine declared firmly, blocking her path. The friends, sensing the growing tension, muttered, "We're not involved," and quickly made their way toward the subway. "There's been some mistake," my mother-in-law stammered, attempting to follow her friends, but she was stopped by an unexpected presence. "What are you doing here? Weren't you supposed to be on a business trip?" Eric stood there, his arrival surprising everyone. It turned out that his supposed business trip was scheduled for the next day. He had given his mother a false date to see how she would act, a plan devised after Catherine informed him about the missing items from our home. Having visited his childhood home and found similar items missing, Eric had begun to suspect theft. But without concrete evidence, he knew any accusation could easily be denied. "What are you doing here?" Eric demanded. "I was just leaving," she replied, attempting to escape the situation. "Give it back. That necklace isn't yours. It's a keepsake from my parents." "Why do you have it, Ma?" I demanded. "It's not what you think. I found it in my purse. Julie must have set me up," she claimed, trying to shift the blame to me, panic evident in her voice. "Do you think such a lie would work? There's no way Julie would do something like that. First, give the necklace back to Julie. We'll talk after that," Eric insisted. Reluctantly, she removed the necklace and threw it on the ground, then tried to flee. "Hey, wait," we called out, starting to chase her but stopping shortly after. We didn't need to chase her. The truth had already caught up with her. I was bewildered as about 15 police officers stood before my mother-in-law. The scene was surreal, and I struggled to grasp what was unfolding. Then one officer explained, "We received a report from a local resident. They said someone was causing a disturbance here and was often seen entering this house when the owners were away. They asked us to come quickly." "What are you talking about? I'm the mother of the son living here," my mother-in-law retorted, clearly annoyed. "Wait, what do you mean she entered when we weren't home?" I questioned, my curiosity piqued. "I never did such a thing," I interjected, trying to clarify that her visits were always while we were present. The police then shared more. "The informant saw her sneaking into your backyard, likely using a spare key to get inside." Indeed, we had a hidden spare key under a plant pot in the backyard. This revelation sent a chill down my spine and suddenly made sense of the missing items. Eric had suspected something and planned to observe her actions today, but this turn of events was beyond his expectations. "Mom, why were you coming into our house when we weren't home?" Eric demanded an answer. "It's all lies. Are you going to believe some unknown person's story over me?" She shot back. "But you did have my precious necklace, didn't you?" I pressed her further. Told you I found it in my purse. My mother-in-law maintained her story. One officer intervened. Let's talk about this at the station. But I didn't do anything, she pleaded. Mom, stop this. I can't understand why you did this, Eric said, his tone firm. Hearing her son's words, my mother-in-law seemed momentarily defeated and collapsed to the ground. But just when it appeared she had given up, she burst into a rage. After your father passed away, I felt so lonely. Seeing her always so cheerful, I couldn't stand it anymore. I wanted her to feel the pain I felt. She confessed her emotions, raw and turbulent, and Eric was visibly shaken by her irrational justification. Sensing the need to address the situation directly, I stepped in front of an increasingly upset Eric. Kayla, I understand where you're coming from. Perhaps I've been too dismissive of our interactions. However, stealing and causing distress is an entirely different matter. Did you intend to upset me? Is that what you aimed for? Don't be ridiculous, she snapped back. Do you find joy in pushing someone to their limits with such twisted actions? Does it fill the void of your loneliness? I asked, trying to grasp the depth of her actions. Shut up. What do you know about me? She yelled, unwilling to confront the reality of what she had done. If you're feeling low, you should just tell us. We can't read minds. I attempted to calm her with reason. Don't mock me. Why would I confide in you, you useless daughter-in-law? She retorted angrily. Mom, Julie has a point, Eric chimed in, trying to mediate. As the tension escalated, the police, observing the situation deteriorate, intervened and suggested we relocate to the station. Are you actually going to arrest me? I can't believe this, she protested vehemently. However, due to multiple eyewitness reports of her unauthorized entry and the suspicion of theft connected to her possession of my belongings, the police decided to detain her. My mother-in-law was arrested on charges of unlawful entry and theft, continuing to assert her innocence. She demanded legal representation and refused the meals provided during her visit. Her father expressed disappointment and encouraged her to sincerely contemplate her actions. His stern reprimand prompted her to tearfully apologize, showing a rare moment of submission to his authority, the only one she seemed unwilling to defy. He cautioned her that without genuine introspection she shouldn't expect a welcoming return home. Reluctantly, she appeared to acknowledge the gravity of her situation. Perhaps the loss of her husband had left my mother-in-law adrift, with her flashy attire and jewelry serving as armor against her insecurities. I pondered whether her desperate treatment of me and my sister-in-law was merely a facade to mask her vulnerabilities. Nonetheless, her unchecked desires and poor impulse control were distinct issues, and it was evident that her flawed judgments had led to this unfortunate situation. I was stunned by how quickly things had escalated, especially after discovering that my mother-in-law had been using the spare key to enter our home surreptitiously. The thought of someone intruding into our personal space uninvited was deeply unsettling. Thankfully, our vigilant neighbors across the street, particularly the wife who worked from home, noticed her suspicious behavior and reported it. I am immensely grateful for their brave intervention, which has since allowed us to live more peacefully and ensured our safety. We updated our home security by changing all the locks and stopped placing a spare key outside. Eric decided it was best to sever ties with his mother, insisting that she refrain from contacting us in the future. He even warned that legal measures would be taken if she attempted to reach out. After her release, she returned to her childhood home in the countryside and surprisingly adopted a simpler way of life, a stark contrast to her previously extravagant lifestyle. Under the watchful eye of her father, she began to contribute to household chores from dawn. I genuinely hope this change allows her to contemplate her past actions. In the meantime, my father moved in with us primarily to safeguard against any unexpected visits from my mother-in-law. His presence not only serves as a security measure but also brings comfort during this exciting time. As I am expecting our first child, the prospect of becoming grandparents has brought a new level of joy and support from Eric, enhancing the warmth and resolve in our household. While material things may offer momentary pleasure, it's truly the company of loved ones that enriches our lives. As we settle into our current living situation, surrounded by family, we are dedicated to maintaining the tranquility and joy in our daily lives, cherishing the serene and supportive environment we've cultivated. Hello, everyone. I'm Amber, and I'd like to share a story about my mother-in-law's behavior toward me and how I handled the situation. My mother-in-law, Patricia, has always been quite curious about my inheritance. Since I married her son Raymond, she's frequently asked, "Amber, when will you receive your inheritance?" I heard it's around $35 million. Just think of the luxurious life we could have with that kind of money. It's taking forever to process, isn't it? Her persistent inquiries revealed her keen interest in my finances. Initially, I naively shared details about my inheritance, a decision I now regret. Following that, Patricia became overly friendly and her constant questioning began to wear on me. My husband, Raymond, and my father-in-law, Gary, would often reprimand her. "Patricia, you need to stop bothering Amber about her inheritance," they'd say. "It's irrelevant when or if she receives it. It's none of our business." Raymond even pointed out, "Mom, you're being incredibly rude and irritating to Amber. We're doing well financially and even supporting you and Dad. What more could you possibly want?" Yet Patricia continued to dream aloud of a more extravagant lifestyle, suggesting we could move from our current home into a mansion. Her fixation on my finances was evident. In an attempt to shift the conversation, I joked, "Who knows if I'll ever receive that inheritance? The process is complicated, and for all you know, I might have made the whole thing up." Everyone laughed at my remark. Everyone except Patricia, who shot me a stern look, clearly upset. After that incident, Patricia's attitude toward me changed drastically. She became openly hostile and insulting, revealing her greed and how deeply my words had affected her. Her behavior escalated, showcasing a surprising level of animosity once she realized I might not be as wealthy as she had imagined. A turning point came one day while Raymond and Gary were away. I found myself alone with Patricia in the kitchen where she regarded me with disdain. With an air of urgency, she demanded that I follow her to her room, signaling the start of an unexpected and challenging confrontation. "We need to talk in private," she insisted, and her insistence only piqued my curiosity while making me uneasy. A thought flickered through my mind, connecting her urgency to a potential postnuptial agreement. Though I wasn't entirely sure why that notion lingered, I was determined not to be left in the dark. I followed her into her room, and to my surprise, Patricia locked the door behind us. Gripping the keys tightly, she demanded, "Amber, you're staying in here until you sign these papers." I was taken aback, struggling to understand her motives and the severity of her actions. With an intensity that left me uneasy, Patricia explained that she wanted me to sign a post-nuptial agreement prepared by a lawyer. This document was designed to ensure that I would have no financial claims against Raymond in the event of a divorce. I was stunned and couldn't fathom why she would assume that Raymond and I would ever part ways. Despite my protests and disbelief at her insinuations, Patricia remained unyielding, insisting that she had everything under control and implying that she would play a significant role in our future. Reluctantly, I began to read the document, curious about its stipulations and the extent of its demands. The agreement was strict, stating that in the event of a divorce, neither Raymond nor I would have any financial claims on each other, effectively denying alimony and any division of assets. This meant we could only retain what was individually in our names. The terms were shocking and ignited a wave of anger within me. I confronted Patricia, questioning the necessity and suddenness of such a document. We had never discussed any prenuptial or postnuptial agreement before, and her actions seemed to suggest deeper issues and intentions. This situation had escalated far beyond simple family dynamics, revealing a complex web of motives and potential conflicts. Patricia's true colors emerged as she confessed that she had initially welcomed me to the family under the assumption that I would inherit $35 million, which would eliminate the need for a prenuptial agreement for her son. Now, she accused me of lying and called me a gold digger, claiming I was a financial burden to Raymond. She insisted I sign the prenup to protect his assets, all while plotting our separation. It became painfully clear that Patricia's silence about a prenup all these years stemmed from her hope of benefiting from my supposed inheritance. Upon discovering that the inheritance might be a mirage, she aimed to strip me of any future claims to Raymond's assets. Her manipulative plan was evident: to fabricate a narrative or create a scenario that would push Raymond toward divorce, favoring a wealthier match to secure a luxurious life for her family. Patricia's disdain was palpable as she insisted that Raymond deserved better than to marry someone without a significant inheritance, completely disregarding the love and bond we shared. Her vision was clouded by greed, seeing me only as an obstacle to her fanciful lifestyle. Her words, a mixture of fury and revelation, struck me deeply. I had always felt an underlying tension between Raymond, Gary, and Patricia, but her blatant greed and disregard for the sanctity of our marriage were shocking. This encounter revealed her willingness to sacrifice her son's happiness for material gain, a realization that only deepened my gratitude for having no inheritance to tie me to her expectations. Determined not to let Patricia's manipulations dictate my choices, I stood firm against signing the post-nuptial agreement she waved in front of me. If Raymond believed such an agreement was necessary, I insisted it should be a mutual decision made with proper legal counsel, not a unilateral demand from his mother. I was resolute, fully aware that she might try to keep me from leaving without acquiescing, but I was prepared to confront her, armed with the truth and the integrity of my relationship with Raymond. Patricia seemed to revel in the control she wielded over me, reminding me that Raymond and Gary wouldn't return from their fishing trip for a while. She leveraged my work responsibilities against me, knowing I was desperate to return to my duties. Frustrated, I demanded the keys, eager to escape her grasp. But then, she escalated the situation, painfully grabbing my hand and hurling cruel accusations at me, calling me a gold digger among other insults. My anxiety soared as her grip tightened and her screams filled the air, drowning out my boss's persistent calls for my return to work. Feeling trapped and overwhelmed by Patricia's intimidation and the pressure of my pending responsibilities, I reluctantly signed the document she presented, watching her satisfied smirk grow wider. As soon as she released me, I dashed from the room the moment she unlocked the door, locking myself in another room to find solace and safety. Once alone, I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart and process what had just happened. I reached out to my boss and explained the ordeal with Patricia. She was incredibly understanding and supportive, appalled by Patricia's behavior. She kindly offered me the day off to recover from the distressing incident. Determined to document the physical evidence of Patricia's aggression, I photographed the bruises on my arm, stark reminders of how far she would go. As I reflected on her actions, my frustration and anger mounted. I knew she needed to face consequences for her behavior. Rather than disturbing Raymond and Gary while they were away, I decided to wait until they returned to address the incident in person. When they arrived the next day, cheerful from their trip, the atmosphere quickly shifted as they sensed the tension between Patricia and me. Raymond, sensing something was off, approached me for answers, but I asked for some time before going into detail. Seizing the moment, Patricia quickly engaged Raymond in conversation, presumably to discuss the prenup, oblivious to the confrontation that had occurred in their absence. We were on the brink of a revelation, each of us holding pieces of a story that had yet to unfold. Not long after, Patricia called for Raymond. He descended the stairs, visibly upset and frustrated, holding the controversial document in hand. "What's this all about, Dad? Did you know about these papers?" he demanded, referring to the post-nuptial agreement his mother had orchestrated. Gary, taken aback, genuinely knew nothing of the scheme. "What papers are you talking about, Raymond? What postnup?" he asked, bewildered by the sudden tension. "It's a ridiculous postnup Mom cooked up for Amber and me," Raymond explained, clearly finding the entire situation absurd and unjustifiable. Gary immediately clarified, "Raymond, I'm completely out of the loop here. I have no idea what this is about." His confusion and surprise were palpable as he turned his gaze toward Patricia, seeking an explanation. Cornered, Patricia defended her actions under the guise of protection. "I'm doing this for your own good, Raymond. Your wife isn't going to bring anything but trouble. She's just after your money," Patricia accused, labeling Amber a gold digger and insinuating she had fabricated a story about an inheritance to ensnare Raymond. Shocked by his mother's harsh words, Raymond struggled to comprehend her twisted logic. "What does Amber's inheritance have to do with us? How can you say such things, Mom?" he asked, his confusion evident. Patricia doubled down, painting the grim picture of Amber exploiting Raymond and leaving him financially drained after a divorce. She urged him to sign the post-nuptial agreement and consider seeking a more financially suitable partner, further inflaming the situation. This accusation ignited a fire in Raymond. He vehemently defended Amber, joined by Gary, marking a rare moment of unity against Patricia's manipulations. It was a turning point for me, witnessing Raymond stand up for our relationship and dispelling any fears about his loyalty. What they both didn't know was that the truth about my inheritance had come through the day before, a detail I hadn't shared amidst the chaos. As the argument subsided, Raymond's gaze met mine, filled with questions and concern. Amber, why did you agree to sign that post-nup? You should have waited for me. You know I'd never support such a thing. Why let Mom pressure you into this? His disappointment was evident, but it was mingled with a genuine desire to understand and rectify the situation together. I reassured Raymond, I never doubted you would request such a thing. You've always supported me unconditionally. I intended to discuss the post-nup with you, but I never got the chance. I explained how Patricia had trapped me in her room, her grip unyielding, until I reluctantly signed the document. My lack of choice was clear. I had been coerced into giving my signature. Raymond and Gary were visibly shocked by my account, especially since Patricia didn't even attempt to refute my claims. Instead, she appeared almost smug about her actions, which only fueled the outrage in my husband and father-in-law. Their disbelief quickly turned to anger as they noticed the marks on my arm. What have you done to Amber? How could you lay hands on my wife? This is assault, Raymond exclaimed, while Gary condemned Patricia's actions as madness. Patricia tried to justify her behavior by claiming she was protecting her son from being taken advantage of, insisting she acted out of maternal instinct. But Raymond countered her claims with disgust, emphasizing that his marriage to me had never been about financial gain. Still clinging to her delusions of a wealthier life, Patricia lamented Raymond's supposed promise to elevate their living standards. Patricia believed that marrying into wealth was the only way to achieve the life she desired. This assertion only deepened the divide, prompting Raymond and Gary to challenge her greed and her disregard for the values that truly mattered to them. The argument escalated as both men confronted her harmful actions, and gradually her obstinance began to crack under the weight of their unified stance. It became clear that she was realizing her actions had crossed a line far beyond what was defensible. Cornered and recognizing that Gary and Raymond were not on her side, Patricia resorted to tears, attempting to sway them with an emotional outburst. She cried, claiming her actions were for the betterment of the family and insisting she deserved a better life for all her sacrifices, including providing them with a home. She portrayed herself as the victim wronged by those she had sheltered. Raymond responded with a reality check, reminding her that their living arrangement was mutually beneficial. He highlighted that he and I were the ones financially supporting the household, not the other way around. Fed up with her manipulative tactics, he declared that they would move out and cease all financial support, signaling a drastic change prompted by her actions. Gary, too, had reached his limit. Years of enduring Patricia's greed had worn him thin, especially now that she had resorted to aggression and manipulation against me. Offering a lifeline, he suggested that he could leave with us, disassociating himself from Patricia's toxic behavior and affirming his support, not for her actions, but for us, his family by choice. Unfazed, Patricia mocked our ability to survive without her, predicting a grim future for us living in substandard conditions. Her taunts were meant to belittle and undermine our decision, banking on the assumption of our financial instability. It was then that I chose to reveal the truth, countering her bleak predictions with confidence. Housing and supporting us won't be an issue, I calmly stated, challenging her narrative of financial doom. Still entrenched in her delusions, Patricia laughed off my assertion, labeling me a gold digger who was incapable of providing for Raymond and Gary without her. Her scorn was palpable, yet it was based on outdated information. I corrected Patricia's assumption. Far from the broke individual she had painted me to be, I was neither financially destitute nor a gold digger. My choice to remain silent about my financial status had been intentional, not a necessity, and it was time she understood the reality she had so grossly misjudged. In that moment, I revealed, actually, I'm quite well off thanks to the $35 million I have access to. While not all of it is liquid, there's more than enough to go around. The surprise in the room was palpable, especially for Patricia, who was clearly taken aback by this sudden shift in my financial narrative. Patricia, bewildered, challenged me, but you said there was no inheritance. You lied. I responded, a bit wearily, Patricia, your nagging was exhausting. I made a flippant remark about not having an inheritance without expecting it to unveil your true intentions. Honestly, I'm thankful for that joke now. It showed me who you really are. This revelation left Patricia scrambling, her mind racing for ways to mend our fractured relationship. She attempted to downplay her earlier hostility, laughing it off as she claimed, "Oh, Amber, you trickster. We could have avoided so much misunderstanding if only you had told us earlier. I countered firmly, really, Patricia? If I had clarified it was a joke, you wouldn't have pushed for that postnuptial agreement or tried to sabotage my marriage, would you? Her attempts to retract her actions, claiming she had gotten carried away and admitting her rudeness while tearing up the postnuptial agreement, were too little, too late. Patricia, it's clear now that you shouldn't concern yourself with my inheritance. Our relationship can't be mended so easily. If Raymond is still on board with moving out and cutting ties, I fully support that decision. This moment marked a turning point for me, emphasizing my independence and readiness to move forward without the strain of Patricia's manipulative tactics. I prioritized my well-being and my relationship with Raymond over any financial entanglement with her. Raymond made it clear, we're moving out, Amber. My mother's greed knows no bounds, and I refuse to let her exploit you any further. We'll leave by the end of the month, and Dad's coming with us. This decision was unanimous. Raymond and I had already begun house hunting and found the perfect place an hour away. Securing a house and planning a move within a month might seem daunting, but our financial stability made the process smooth and efficient. Gary decided to join us, ready to step into a new chapter of his life as he initiated divorce proceedings against Patricia. His decision came independently, driven by the events that had unfolded, and he filed for divorce within the same month we planned to move. Desperate and cornered, Patricia pleaded with us to reconsider, trying to elicit sympathy through tears and apologies. However, her financial predicament only compounded her woes. Without a personal income and with Gary's financial dependence on Raymond, neither was eligible for alimony. Ironically, Gary was entitled to half of Patricia's house, as it was acquired during their marriage, leading to the very outcome she had feared and tried to avoid by meddling in our finances. She would have to sell her home. The divorce process dragged on for a year, marked by mandatory separation periods and Patricia's visible distress over her dwindling finances. She was forced to expedite the sale of her house for survival. After the divorce was finalized and their assets settled, Gary opted for a modest apartment, valuing his independence and wishing not to impose on our new life. We continued to support him financially, able to do so comfortably. While tumultuous, this series of events reinforced our family bonds, underscoring the importance of integrity, support, and the true value of relationships over material gain.